with Tyler Redmond.
Welcome to On Deck, everybody. Thank you for tuning in. Of course, if you're new here, make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell for notifications, like every other YouTube channel tells you to do. But glad to be here tonight. Tonight we don't have a ton to talk about. I'll name off a couple of things, but tonight we're primarily just going to have a Q&A, which is going to be run by, well, you guys. You guys are going to ask the questions, and I'm going to respond to as many as I can. And it's purely a Q&A tonight. No long monologue. We're going to jump right into Q&A. So with that said, we're going to go ahead and do that. But before we do, just want to mention two things, really. Two notable things, I think. For one, Brock Holt has left the Braves. He asked for his release and was granted it. Probably because he's performed pretty well in spring training and he thinks he can get more on the free agency market. So we'll see what happens there. You follow that along, but that's the biggest news I think out of today. Of course, overnight they also signed Preston Tucker to a minor league deal. Former Atlanta Brave, played back in 2018, and I'll be honest with you, I didn't know this till today, but I went looking, and he has spent the past few years in the Korean Baseball League. He had a really good year in 2020, but in 2021 he kind of fell off, and now he's back in the major leagues and he's back with the Atlanta Braves. So I think that's pretty interesting. It's a friendly face back on the Braves, and it's a guy that performed, I think, fairly decent a few years ago back in 2018. He had two stints in 2018 with the Braves. First he was with the Braves, then he was in Cincinnati, and then he came back to Atlanta. So it's pretty interesting, and it's, again, another friendly face to add to the roster, to add depth. Alex Anthopoulos continues to add depth pieces, which is what I told you I thought was going to be the case. And he, again, continues to do that. Seth Elledge is another one that happened over the past few days. And I think it's going to continue to just sprinkle in. I think that's what they're going to do. They're going to sprinkle in more depth pieces and add on to an already pretty full roster, in my opinion. So we'll see what happens. But, again, those pieces are interesting. Again, Brock Holt no longer with the Braves, and now Preston Tucker is. So I think that's pretty interesting. So we're going to go ahead and jump in the chat. Appreciate you guys tuning in early. I'm going to go as long as I can tonight. And again, I appreciate it. So let's see. We got Blake. He said he saw the premiere of Behind the Braves, and now he's watching the Hawks alongside me. I appreciate that. Hitman, what's up, man? Kendrick Thomas says, sup. Blake says, I'm so sad about the Brock Holt thing. I was rooting for him hard to be here in Atlanta. In theory, he still could be, I guess. I don't think he will be. But, he had a decent year last year. He had a pretty good spring training. But when it comes, like Brock Holt, I think, basically, I feel like he's decided he can get more on the market. Because he asked for his release. I don't think anything major happened behind the scenes in any negative way. So I think he just thinks he can get more on the open market. But I know a lot of people were really rooting for him. I've seen it on Twitter. Blake, in fact, I've seen you on Twitter talk about it a good bit. So, it wouldn't surprise me if he came back to the Braves for more money, but I don't really see that happening. But again, it wouldn't necessarily surprise me at all. But, we'll see. But yeah, Brock Holt was a surprise, I think, for a lot of people. And, we have a lot of questions in the outfield and really in depth as a whole, I think, beyond the infield. So Brock Holt was a big surprise, and I think we would have, like you said, carried to him pretty well. I think we would have, appreciated what he was going to bring to the Braves, but it's fine. We'll see. Let me see. Caleb Cox, in your opinion or hopes, do the Braves extend Dansby this year or before he hits free agency? In my hopes, yeah, I hope they go ahead and do it. I hope he takes a page from what Freddie didn't do and goes ahead and knocks that out. That's what I'd like to see. In my opinion, I think it's up to them, right? They got to make that deal, so it's hard to say. Unfortunately, I don't have an inside source on that, but yeah, I would hope that he would go ahead and do it and solidify the infield for a few more years because no one else is really, going anywhere. I always pull up that timetable, and when you look at the infield based on this thing, you got Matt Olson till 2030, you got Ozzy Albies till 2028, you got Riley till 2026 at least. And I think he re-signed those guys more than likely. So I hope he's part of it. I really do. I think he's been a fundamental part of the Braves these past few years. I think he could be a fundamental part of the Braves for years to come, but we'll see when it comes to Dansby. I would hope that he does. I would hope that it doesn't get to a point where we're wondering, and I hate that it got to there with Freddie. But I hope that he realizes, hey, the Braves, he listens to what Chipper had to say, and if he wants to be a Brave, I think he'll be a Brave. But that's how I feel about it. Hey guys, do me a favor. Remember to like the video. That always really helps me broaden it to a bigger audience. And it always helps me basically just grow the channel. So make sure to like the video. Of course, if you're new here, make sure to subscribe. And of course, hit the bell so that you know the moment we do go live. But appreciate you guys tuning in. Really do. Jose, good to see you, buddy. Blake says we needed that utility on the bench. And Brock was going to be that guy. I think he's one of many that could be that guy. I think Dickerson will probably be in the outfield at the early part of the year, and then he'll be that guy. Keep in mind, we still have Guillermo Heredia. There are pieces that we still have. Phil Gosselin's another one. And again, Brock Holt's not necessarily completely out the door. I think, yeah, he asked for his release, but maybe he's still negotiating behind closed doors, and maybe not. It's kind of hard to tell, but I think, if he views that he can get more on the open market, I see that is what it is. But like Matthew says down there, the Braves, because the Braves informed him that he wouldn't make the MLB team. So we'll see. I mean, I think, spring training, this type of stuff happens all the time. Y'all remember a few years ago, the Braves picked up like Adrian Gonzalez for a few days in spring training. I mean, it's so fluid in spring training. It's basically, I don't think you should have hard feelings about it. I don't think it's anything like that, but it's definitely interesting. John Maine, how's it going, man? Do you think this is Kyle Wright's last chance to be a starter for Atlanta? Last chance is hard to say. I don't know about last chance. What I will say when it comes to Kyle Wright, let me look up his time frame. Kyle Wright, I think, has a few more years. I don't think he's a free agent until, let me see. I don't want to give you the wrong number. So he's arbitration eligible this year. He's not a free agent until 2027. So last chance, I doubt it. I really do doubt that. Not saying that you're completely wrong there. I definitely think we're pushing, do we trade him mentality? But if he's not a free agent until 2027, I think he's definitely going to get some more chances. Keep in mind, Kyle Wright, I know a lot of people harp on Kyle Wright. Kyle Wright, I said this the other day, was really good in college. At Vanderbilt, he was great, right? What we've seen out of Kyle Wright is somebody who I don't think was ever truly ready for the major leagues, so it's going to be interesting to see him this year, bouncing off the World Series last year and all of that. I don't think it's his last chance, but when it comes to Kyle Wright, I think that we're about to see what a fully raised Kyle Wright looks like, right? Like what we've seen before is we're pulling him out of the minors in an emergency situation, right? 2020, obviously we lost all our pitching. Fulte goes down, Newcomb goes down. We didn't have pitching. Soroka goes down. And we go get Kyle Wright, who, in his mind, has another year in AAA, which he spent the majority of last year in AAA, and he really wasn't pulled up till the tail end of the year. And when he was, he had good appearances in the World Series. I mean, and I know that's not the only thing, but I don't think you can judge him off that. I think this year is actually his first real chance, and we'll see if he gets consistency. I think that's all we can really ask for, but we'll see. I think I skipped. Yeah, Matthew says, "Hey Tyler, that was the worst Behind the Braves episode ever. I didn't get to see it. To tell you the truth, I was actually setting up for the show, which takes me a few minutes. I wanted to give you guys a chance to watch it. I don't really like to compete with the Braves when they drop something, so I try to give it a little bit of time for you guys to watch it. I hate that's the case." But I'll have to watch it, and I'll give you my verdict another time. But we'll see. Blake says, I don't think Dansby would want to be anywhere else, especially after we just got his roommate, talking about Matt Olson. I think that's probably the case, and I really don't think that's all it is. I mean, I think it would have been Freddie, too. I think Dansby feels comfortable in Atlanta, but at the same time, I think when Freddie left, we all sort of realize that anything is possible, so I don't hold anybody to they're going to be here till the end of time anymore, because I assumed Freddie would be, And, we obviously were caught off guard with that. So I don't know that it's, a for sure, but I definitely think Dansby wants to be here. I think he wants to be here for a long time. And I think most of the Braves do, if I'm honest with you. I mean, why wouldn't you be? You just won the World Series. You got a team that is set to succeed over the next few years. In terms of Dansby, he's got friends like Ozzy Albies on the team, and he's a hometown kid. He's been with the Braves almost his entire career, except for when he was drafted by the Diamondbacks. So, I mean, when it comes to Dansby, I think he's more than likely going to re-sign, at least on his first deal. I don't know what happens, as time goes on. I'm not going to say he's going to be a Brave forever, but I definitely think he wants to be here, and I think that's what you need to focus on. But we'll see. Hitman asks a very good question, one that we've talked about a lot on this channel. Who is going to be the 4th and 5th spot on the rotation? Hitman, here's what I'm going to tell you. I did a video, the whole stream last time was about that exact thing. But what I did for you was I clipped it down into smaller videos. They're about 3 minutes. They're my most recent ones. You can go find them. But the front runners, just to give you a quick rundown of it, the front runners right now are Huascar Ynoa and Kyle Wright. That's why a lot of people are talking about Kyle Wright in the chat tonight. Those are the current front runners. But I still think Kyle Muller, even though he seemed to have a kind of a rough day today, I still think Kyle Muller, Spencer Strider, maybe even Tucker Davidson, I still think they may be competing for that. I definitely think the assumption is Huascar Ynoa and Kyle Wright. But I definitely think that you could see a 6th starter because they've hinted at that idea. They're still tweeting about it. Mark Bowman tweeted about that, I believe, overnight last night, talking about those 3 guys could be competing for the 6th spot in the rotation, or just to be an opener of sorts. And to be honest with you, I think their situation, and I say they kind of fluidly because I don't know who they necessarily is. Spencer Strider may very well spend the majority of the year in AAA. And same goes for Kyle Muller and Tucker Davidson to get consistent innings as a starter. But with that said, I also think you could see those guys also, spend the year in the bullpen. I mean, Max Fried started in the pen, right? I mean, there's nothing wrong with getting 4 or 5 innings out of the pen, in long relief, because we lost Josh Tomlin, right? Josh Tomlin was the guy who we brought in for long relief. And I know our bullpen is stacked right now, and that's great and wonderful. I'm very happy that it is. It's going to be great once we get everybody healthy again, including Kirby Yates and Luke Jackson on that end. But the bullpen's going to be really good, but at the same time, I mean, you got to prepare to have somebody to go out there for a few innings. And, whether that's Kyle Muller, whether that's, Touki Toussaint or Tucker Davidson or Spencer Strider, to get them, their first experience in the big leagues or first consistent experience in the big leagues, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think that's how you raise up talent. And I would very well be okay with that. But right now, to answer your question, Hitman, the front runners are Huascar Ynoa and Kyle Wright. If you want more information, go check out those other videos. They're up there for your entertainment, and I would appreciate a view. So thanks for that. Blake says, I see they like Dickerson a lot. Yep. We can agree Heredia and Pena are a lock on the bench. Yeah, I mean, you can whittle down to the 28-man pretty easily, I think. I mean, if you go look at it, you're obviously going to carry some more pitchers. Right, and if you start looking at, okay, this guy's a lock, and that's why I went through the locks a few weeks ago, is to show you, how many spots were actually available, because the lineup is a lock, right? Like, we know all the infielders are locks. We know that Eddie Rosario, we know Adam Duvall are locks. The catchers, both of those are locks, but, on the 40-man, you got 4 catchers, and you got to pick and choose who's it going to be. To me, it's pretty obvious Manny Pena is going to be your backup catcher. It just is, because we're paying him $8 million over 2 years. We're not paying William Contreras that, and I don't think we would have went and got him if we weren't going to use him. So I think, again, you're right. They're both locks. But Heredia, I think, is definitely a lock. I don't know why they wouldn't start the year with, frankly, a World Series champion and somebody that did what he did last year and was, nothing but great off the bench for the most part, did his job in the outfield, and was a good guy to have in the clubhouse as well. So I definitely think those guys are locks. I think there's a lot more locks than that. To be honest with you right now, I think it's all but certain that Dickerson is a lock, at least to start the season. I don't know that that'll be the case once Acuna's back and, once that evolution is through. But Dickerson, I think, is a lock for opening day. I think he very well might be your right or left fielder. Let me see. Sorry, guys, got a little bit behind. Joe Mixon, good to hear from you, man. Drew Waters could get the center field spot until Acuna comes back if he is on the 40-man. The thing about Drew Waters is you don't want to bring him up too early. I mean, think about how quick they sent him back down to the minors in spring training, right? And I'm not knocking the guy. I think he's going to be a good talent, but you don't want to bring him up too early. You don't want to expose him to major league pitching too early. So for me, I think Drew Waters is probably going to spend the year in AAA, at least half the year in AAA. And just because somebody's hurt or just because somebody's out, you don't want to necessarily bring somebody who's not ready right in. I mean, look at what happened with Pache, right? I mean, he never got around to major league hitting. He could field just fine, but he's still not quite there in terms of his bat. So I don't think they quite want to do that with Drew Waters. If you look at his stats in the minors, it's not quite consistent enough to to bring him up, and you don't want to waste his options, right? So, you know, with a major league team, a lot of the time, well, all the time, players have options. So you can only send them down and bring them up so many times before you have to release them and put them out for waivers, right? You don't want to waste their options, especially when they're as young as Drew Waters is. You just don't want to do that. So I think, not to mention he's already in AAA camp. So I don't think you want to waste that. I don't think you want to expose him to major league pitching just yet. I think he's at least a few months away, maybe even a year away. Joe Mixon says Newcomb is looking like he's not going to make the opening day roster. I'll be honest with you, he was a lock for me, and it's because they went to arbitration, they paid him his money. I don't know if he's going to make it or not, but to be honest with you, I think he is because we can carry so many extra pitchers, and I think he may be one of those guys that's a Tomlin type, you know, guys that just eats innings when we're up by 5 or down by 5. And I mean that with all due respect to Sean Newcomb, but I really think he very well might be that guy in that role because we know he's not going to be a starter. We know, you know, he's not going to be counted on necessarily in the pen. I think he might be a Grant Dayton type or a Josh Tomlin type that comes in and, you know, fills up an inning or fills up a couple of innings when the score is out of the question, when the game's not necessarily on the line. But I definitely think he's a lock just because we have 28 guys that can be on the opening day roster. You know, your lineup is set for the most part. Your bullpen is for the most part, again, set. And your rotation is fluid right now, right? Your front three is great. Your back two, you're a little questionable. You're going to carry extra pitchers, naturally. You don't need a bench, really. I mean, in the grand scheme of things, how many times are you going to see a pinch hitter under these rules? So I think you're going to carry extra pitchers, which is going to help Sean make the opening day roster. That's kind of why I got him as a lock right now. But I get why you think that, but again, I have him as a lock. Jose, hey Tyler, what are your thoughts on Spencer Strider so far? I could see him being part of the pen this year and maybe slowly developing into a starter. I believe he has the potential to be a stud. Yeah, that's kind of what I know. I'm kind of running behind on the comments. I always find myself doing that. But yeah, I with Spencer Strider, I think right now he's competing to be a sixth guy on the rotation, which won't be consistent. It won't be, you know, every sixth day. It won't be anything like that. But I think it'll be a spot start here and there. He might spend time in the minors just to have consistent innings, and that means something. That really does help you. And as opposed to, all right, you're going to start tomorrow, you know, and not being able to plan out and be on a routine. I think he may spend time there, but at the same time, I think he's good enough to, you know, to a lot of other teams, I think he'd be in a starting rotation right now on the back end of it, right? I think he's just, the Braves are pretty good. Don't know if you guys knew that or not, but the Braves are pretty good. So I think that when it comes to Spencer Strider, I think he's got a bright future with the Braves. I don't think he's necessarily ready, but he's got good stuff. He's got to learn to control it and get some consistency. But if he continues to do what he's doing, I see no problem with pulling him up in a few months if need be. But again, I mentioned like Kyle Wright, you don't want to pull him up too early, right, and expose him to something he's not ready for. Jake Hobby, don't forget we have Phil Gosselin too. Yep. Joe Mixon, Kyle Wright looks like he's going to get a rotation spot with Enoa. Yep. That's where I'm at with it. Blake, off topic, Tyler, but I just got to say Trae Young is so good at basketball. I would tend to agree with you. John Main, solid point. Okay, solid points on Wright. I'm really pulling for him to be a starter for us. Yeah, I mean, I a lot of people I think get frustrated, especially when there's a big time moment like the NLCS a few years ago in 2020. I'm not gonna lie to you, I was frustrated, but at the same time, you have to take a step back and realize he only had like I'm gonna say max 10 games before that at the major league level, and that's probably being fairly generous. To be honest with you, I can tell you exactly real quick, but I believe he only had a few prior to his appearance against the Dodgers in 2020. But the one that you're going to remember, yeah, so he had 8 games in 2020 during the regular season. I don't know how many he exactly had in the postseason, but I doubt it was very many. Okay, in 2020, yeah, he had one, and it was the game I'm talking about. So that was his first postseason game. It was in the NLCS versus the Dodgers. Obviously, high stakes. You got all the pressure in the world on you. You've only got 8 games in the regular season. It's so easy to just remember that one moment without context. And I think a lot of people have done that with Kyle Wright. Kyle Wright can still be very solid in the major leagues. He was solid, again, in college. He's proven himself before. You just got to give him a chance. And that's where I'm at with it. I hope you guys see it the same way. If not, I get it. But that's where I'm at with it. So we'll see. But right now, I'm not necessarily betting on Kyle Wright, but I think you got to give the guy a chance. And, again, look at the development from one year to the next. 2020 had one of the worst postseason appearances ever, right? I mean, I think we can all agree there. It was one of the worst ever. 2021, I mean, he came out and performed. He had like a 1.5 ERA, I think, in 2021, the World Series. 1.59. So I think you have to give him a chance, and if you don't, it's up to you. But I definitely think Kyle Wright can be solid. And I hope that people, he proves some people wrong, much like a lot of other people have in previous years. Austin Riley comes to mind. You got to drown out the noise, right? A lot of people just jump to, this guy's terrible. I'm not one of those people. I'm going to give the guy a chance, right? If the Braves believe in him, there's obviously a reason. And I think you got to give him as many chances as you can before you just outright release him or trade him or whatever. But they see something in him, and I really think he has some value. So, again, we'll see. Matthew says, hey, Tyler, AA already said Ozuna will be starting in left field. What do we need Dickerson for? Can't we find a better DH than Dickerson? Probably. I think they assume Ozuna will start in left field, but I definitely think Dickerson could. And I think it would make more sense. I don't know what AA said. I did see that, but for me, it's like I can see Ozuna in left field, but I can also see Dickerson out there as well. And I think it makes more sense to have Ozuna at DH than Dickerson. I think you get Dickerson for the defense, but we'll see. We'll see how Snit draws it up. I think at the end of the day, it's Snit's decision in terms of who plays where. But we'll see how it evolves. And opening day is one day, right? We don't know what's going to happen in the next few. We don't know what's going to happen in the early part of the season because, again, spring training has been so short. It really is, I know I say that kind of like a broken record on this channel, but spring training this year is abnormally short. And that, I think the early part of the year, because of that, for the entirety of Major League Baseball, is going to be sort of an extended spring training that's slightly more competitive. And we'll see how it goes. But, I mean, you look at games like the one the Nationals had the other day, like 29 to 8? I mean, I think a lot of teams are going to be unprepared. And we'll see how it ages. I think the Braves are going to be more prepared than a lot of others. But they're still going to have some questions. And it's not big questions. It's just stuff that they got to figure out what they want to do with it. And I don't think that they're planning on going very long with Ozuna in the outfield. So if they go with Ozuna in the outfield, they'll have Dickerson as a backup outfielder. Maybe they put him in for late inning defense and do a double switch with Ozuna and put him at DH. I don't know what the situation's going to be. I don't know that if Ozuna's in the field, Dickerson's necessarily your DH. I don't know exactly how that's going to fit in. I think, to be honest with you, after I saw the lineup for today, which I'll pull up right now, after I saw the lineup for today, I think that this lineup is sort of similar to what I think that the Braves will have on opening day. For some reason, it's not blown up. But I definitely think that, this is the lineup that they'll have, on opening day. I think this is a very similar game. If I can find it. Give me just a second, guys. Sorry. But anyway, I saw it, and it's got Dickerson in there, and all of that. All right, let me see. If I can find that lineup, I'll tell you. I promise. All right. Yeah. So for the most part, not exactly exact, but you have Arcia leading off. He's DH. You have Olson at first, Riley at third, Phil Gosselin at third. Marcelo's you're starting to see your stars in there, right? You got Dickerson and Duvall play. Michael Harris made an appearance, but a lot of your big time players made appearances today. Swanson came in. So if you're looking at this with intelligent eyes, obviously instead of Gosselin at third, you're going to have Riley. Ozuna's playing left, Ozzy playing second, Dickerson's in right field. There you go. Duvall's in center. Michael Harris, of course, came in later, and then Swanson came in as well, Manny Pena. So I think on opening day, you'll probably be seeing something like Eddie Rosario. In terms of the outfield, you're definitely going to have Duvall in center, I think. Dickerson played right field today, and Ozuna played in left, but Rosario wasn't out there, right? So I think it's going to be pretty fluid, but I think today you're finally starting to see what it's going to look like. They're dwindling down a lot of these guys' names, but I definitely think Dickerson will be on the roster opening day. But I don't know that it's necessarily going to be, that they have a set plan for who does what. I think they might stick Ozuna in left field and let him. He's lost a lot of weight. He's coming in shape. Maybe his fielding's gotten better as a result. I don't know, but I definitely think, in terms of Dickerson versus Ozuna, in terms of who's DH, it makes more sense to put Ozuna at DH. But at the same time, who knows? Williams says Dansby and Freddie have the same agent. That doesn't mean that he's going to negotiate the same way, especially after the Freddie situation. Joe Mixon, Contreras could be a DH to start the season. Very well could be. Contreras can hit a lot better than he is behind the plate right now. I think that'll change at some point. But for right now, he's a much better hitter. So we'll see. I wonder, Joe Mixon also says, I wonder if the Braves tag Dansby in the offseason. I think he would accept it, since it'd probably be $19 million. I really hope they would just extend him, maybe get him on a lesser deal, and have him for longer. But we'll see. I don't really want him to go to free agency. I think Chipper said it perfectly, that if he goes to free agency, speaking on Freddie in this case, but if you go to free agency, you won't be a Brave. And I really don't want to test the waters there. If we want Dansby, we need to get him prior to it. Oh yeah, by the way, guys, Max Fried was named the opening day starter, so not to say I got it right, but I did get it right. Blake says, I think Morton would have been the opening day starter if the fifth was a lefty, so I think Kyle Wright. I think you're probably going to see Max Fried, Charlie Morton, Ian Anderson, Huascar, and then Kyle Wright. That's what I'm leaning at right now. Matthew says, hey, Tyler, if it was like the NFL and you had to choose 1 year early, should the Braves offer Duvall the $18 million 1 year qualifying offer for 2023? Well, I don't know, because you got Drew Waters in the waiting. You got Michael Harris in the waiting soon. I don't know that. Maybe. I think it kind of depends on what he does this year. And I get what you're saying. If you had to choose 1 year early. I don't know. That's tough. I think no, to tell you the truth, because, again, you got Rosario for 2 years. You got Acuna for 10. And beyond that, you got a bunch of prospects that are supposedly going to be ready to go by then. So I say no, but again, who knows there? I mean, that's a hypothetical. Hitman, what do you think our record will be this year? Our records are hard to say, but I would say we're going to get north of 90 wins, less than 105. So somewhere between 90 and 105 wins. That's where I'm at. I definitely think we're going to be a better team during the regular season this year than we were last year. John Main, Dickerson isn't locked as DH. He's more of a depth piece. Ozuna will be DH once Acuna is back. Exactly, right? I mean, Dickerson gives you the opportunity to stick someone else in the outfield. That's what he's going to be there for. But I definitely think they like him as that piece right now. And I couldn't tell you the spring training stats because, to be honest with you, I don't value spring training stats most of the time. I mean, you're looking at, players across all of Major League Baseball that are like 1 for 17. I think it was Cody Bellinger the other day. And not to say that that's abnormal, but it is spring. It's hard to judge stats on that usually, much less in such a small sample size. So I don't know that they're really valuing it either. I think they're going to go off what they see and what they know. So we'll see. Daniel Fowler, hey Tyler, rough day today with the Braves. Of course, they lost 5-1 against the Rays, but we got to hear an Olson bomb. Did Olson hit a homer? I didn't get to watch the game. Did he hit a homer? Because if he did, I'm going to go after. I don't see that he hit a homer. I might be crazy, but I can't really tell. I'm looking at the box score, so it's hard to. All I can see is hits, so I assume he probably got a homer based on what you're saying. Sorry, I'm trying to. Yep, he did go deep. Okay, yeah, I'll have to watch that later. Yeah, guys, a lot of times during the day I don't get to see the games because my sleep schedule is weird. I sleep during the day and I'm awake now, and then I go to work later, of course. So it's hard for me to catch up on a lot of this stuff. But I think for me the first Olson home run that's going to matter is the first one he does in the regular season. But I'm glad he's in a good swing and in a good swinging routine, and obviously able to hit well. John Main says, don't count on Drew Waters in left and Ozuna as DH. He says, don't count on it. I don't know what the context is there, but I won't count on it. All right, I know I'm getting kind of behind, guys. Remember, also like the video if you're here. Do appreciate you tuning in. Helps me out a ton, so make sure to do that. But also, if you want to get your stuff in, if you want me to answer it like that, I will. If you super chat, that's really the only way I can, skip to you. That's the best way I can do it. Of course, if you put a chat in, I may get to it 30 minutes from now, but just remember, I'm trying my best to get to you as quick as I can. Again, super chats is the way to rush your answer if you want one now. Let me see. Richard Davis says Contreras won't be on the opening day roster, so we got some conflicting comments in the chat. I think Contreras probably won't be either. If I had to guess, I just don't see a reason he would need to be. I mean, historically, teams carry 2 catchers, right? I just don't see that there to be a reason to be, unless they just really value his bat. But I really think they're going to want to give him consistent innings behind the plate in the minors. I mean, that's the whole reason he's on the team, is to be a catcher. Catching. Johnny Estrada saw him over the weekend. Catching always comes first. That's his quote. It always comes first. What you do behind the plate matters so much more than what you do at the plate. And with Contreras, you saw a big difference when d'Arnaud came back. And it wasn't necessarily because d'Arnaud's bat. It was because of how the pitching improved, how the bullpen improved. And, it wasn't just when d'Arnaud came back. I mean, even when Stephen Vogt came in, we saw a big improvement because it was a veteran catcher that, can frankly call pitches, can isn't so focused on framing. It's more so, conscious of what's going on in the game around him. And I think Contreras has got some work to do there. I think they're going to want to work with him in AAA. So, yeah, I don't think he'll be on the roster. I mean, it is an interesting thought to think he could be the DH for a short stretch, but I really think they're going to want to develop him in AAA. I mean, if he's the guy that we're going with out of him and Langoliers, I definitely think they're going to want to work with him. So we'll see how it goes, but that's where I'm at with it right now. Thanks for the comment there, Richard. Joe Mixon, I think the Braves let Duvall walk without a qualifying offer unless he plays like he did last season. I think they are hoping Michael Harris will be ready for 2023. Drew Waters is supposed to be ready before Michael Harris. I think they have a lot of prospects that are lined up. Now, the one thing about that is the Marlins might, come and get Duvall, or, you just never know what's going to happen there. If it's $18 million, I think that's a little steep. A few years ago when it was $6 million, I definitely think it made sense. But with Duvall, I mean, Adam Duvall had a great year last year, had a great year the year before last. I mean, he's been really good for the Braves. He's not a big average guy. I mean, he's going to be about a 230 hitter. That's usually where he's at. But I mean, he hit a ton of homers. And just with the Braves, he hit 16, and that was after the All-Star break. In total, he got 38. So I mean, he's obviously a great hitter, and he was good with the Braves. Obviously, a big part of the World Series run. Hit a grand slam in the World Series that I think gets forgotten about a lot. But I mean, Duvall was a major player. With that, though, I mean, the Braves have to determine what makes the most sense for them. And when you got guys like, when you got guys like Michael Harris, when you got guys like Drew Waters in the minor leagues, that you're not paying hardly anything to, it's hard to keep, somebody like Duvall making $18 million when you could save that money and use it elsewhere, maybe to get a Kenley Jansen type figure, right? So we'll see what happens. But I think I'm leaning on the side of Joe Mixon, to tell you the truth. I haven't done a whole lot of thinking about it. I mean, I know Duvall was going to be gone after this year unless he got re-signed. I don't think it makes sense to go any further because you got Rosario until 2024. You have Acuna again forever. And beyond that, you have prospects probably, not even arbitration eligible until 2025, 26 maybe. So I think, right now it makes more sense to assume that, the Braves are going to move on from Duvall. But that's a long way away. We still have a whole season to get through before we worry about anything like that. So, but we'll see. Tyler D, good to hear from you, man. What's going on? Let me see. Blake says Contreras should be up to start with the 28-man roster since Gwinnett starts later. Yeah, he could be. He could be at the early part of the year, but I think they're going to carry more pitchers. I think that's the only thing that makes sense to me is that they're going to carry more pitchers. So we'll see what happens, but I think ultimately I'd be surprised if they didn't carry extra pitching, whether that's Spencer Strider, Tucker Davidson, Kyle Muller, Sean Newcomb, or, whoever. I think that's where I'm leaning right now. Tyler D says expanded roster the first month will help. Yep. I agree with you there, John Main. Trying to skip through a little faster, guys. By the way, remember, like the video. See some more of you guys are tuning in. Like the video. Helps me out a ton. Do appreciate it. Blake says Newcomb is a lock because of the arbitration. Yep. Hopefully he has a good April, and we can trade him for a high A pitcher come May 1st. Maybe. We'll see. I mean, he obviously wants to be a starter. I think that's what his goal is. I just don't think it's going to happen on the Braves anytime soon. I don't think it makes sense. So we'll see. But when it comes to Newcomb, I definitely think he's a lock for the roster. Don't even know if he's going to make an appearance. But, I mean, when you have a bullpen as stacked as the one that the Braves have right now, I just don't know that Newcomb really fits in. I mean, if all of the innings are covered by the starters, right? Like if there's a 5-inning gap covered by Ian Anderson, why in the world, if the Braves are up by 1, down by 1, up by 2, down by 2, would they bring in Sean Newcomb when you have this many guys that can come in and fill that? I mean, Tyler Matzik can easily give you 2 innings. A.J. Minter can give you 2 innings. He did it in the postseason a few years ago. Started the game and I believe gave 4. Will Smith is solid. Kenley Jansen is solid. Colin McHugh, solid. And even though we're down Luke Jackson and Kirby Yates right now, the bullpen is still going to be lights out. I mean, it just is. So why wouldn't you throw in a Sean Newcomb in that, in that scenario? I certainly would. I think that makes the most sense. But I can understand why a lot of people are hesitant to bring in Sean Newcomb. But I think he's a lock to be a Grant Dayton, Josh Tomlin, type role. So we'll see. But again, I think Sean Newcomb is definitely a lock for opening day. But again, we will see. Jameson, good to hear from you, man. Thanks for tuning in. He says, chilling like the Braves starting pitcher might have a short leash 31st month. Sorry, buddy. I'm kind of losing you. Chilling like the Braves starting pitcher might have a short leash 31st month of the season. I don't know what you're saying there, buddy. I'm going to have to move on. Joe Mixon, Strider is going to take the role Adam Wainwright had in 2006. Maybe. We'll see. John Main, the Braves are known for bringing guys up and down from AAA, but with the EW rules, they have to be more careful in their decisions. Oh, the new rules. I was kind of confused with that. Yeah, I think under the new rules, they definitely have to be more careful for sure. I mean, over the lockout and all that. I mean, the anti-tanking clause, it's just... in terms of how I feel about that, that's kind of irrelevant. But yeah, I definitely think they have to be more careful But in terms of bringing guys up and down, I think that's what they've done over the past few years to some success and to some negative effects, I think, as well. But ultimately, I think that they're trying to avoid that anyway because you don't want to waste options just to waste them. For a win now scenario that could damage the team as a whole, right? Like I don't think you want to do that. And I think the Braves are trying to avoid that as well. Jameson says, wondering, would it be better for Strider to go down to the farm system? That way he could pitch every 5 days if the plan is for him to be a starter in the future. Yeah, I mean, that's what I think they're trying to decide right now, right? Who's it going to be? Who will it be? Strider? Will it be Tucker Davidson? Will it be Kyle Muller? Kyle Wright? Kyle Wright I think is pretty solid on the rotation at the moment, but I still think the early part of the year is going to be competition. But ultimately, when it comes to those guys, I think they're trying to decide who's it going to be, in the sixth man spot or just, long relief type, guy. And I definitely think Strider could be, but I think, like you said, I think they very well may want to keep him consistent. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that in the minors. Personally, I hope they do keep him in the minors for a little while. That way I can go get an up-close look in Gwinnett. By the way, guys, if you've never been to Gwinnett, I suggest you go, or any minor league facility, because, the tickets are, frankly, pretty cheap. But also, you get a closer look. You get a more interactive experience, I think, as well, like if you're into autographs and that type of thing. Gwinnett is definitely a place to go. But beside that, like I always pull up that video of, if I can find it, I always pull up that video of Kyle Muller. This was my seat in Gwinnett, and I think I paid like $30. This was legitimately where I sat. And, the zoom's a little in, but up front row, right behind home plate, so this is the view I hope to get a Spencer Strider later this year, in Gwinnett. So we'll see what happens, but I wouldn't mind at all if Strider spent some time in Gwinnett. I think that would be a good thing. I don't think that would be a bad thing at all. I think it would give him some consistent, reps, so to speak. And I think, again, it would be a good thing. Joe Mixon says Kyle Wright has one bad game in the playoffs, but he has had like 3 or 4 great games in 2021 playoffs. He is getting battle tested. Yeah, but I want to see him get battle tested throughout a regular season. That's where I think you make the final judgment, and maybe not even this year, maybe next, but I think you got to give him some time throughout a regular season to impress you or disappoint you. And, you can't just judge a guy. It'd be the equivalent of pulling up Michael Harris right now, or pulling up Michael Harris and putting him on the postseason roster and playing him starting him out in the outfield, and expecting him, to do Eddie Rosario's type numbers, right? Like, it's just not going to happen. That's such a high expectation. And even if it did happen, it would blow your mind, right? Like, I don't think, I'll be honest with you. When I walked I was at the Kyle Wright game, the bad game, the one that gave him a 94 ERA in the postseason or whatever that year. I was there, and it was hard to watch. But, I'm not going to lie to you and tell you that I was confident that the Braves are going to win when I walked into that stadium. I knew who was on the mound, and I mean that with no disrespect to Kyle Wright, but I knew it was a young guy on the mound. I think we all knew it was a young guy on the mound. Anything could happen, and, whether it be 1 run or 7 or 15, whatever the situation may be, you can't expect, nobody expected at the time for us to win that game. But I think because it was in such grand fashion, the way the Dodgers won that game, a lot of people just remember that specifically and hold on to that. And I think that's unfortunate because Kyle Wright is a valuable talent. And, he was a guy that, frankly, I remember when I interviewed Dansby Swanson a few years ago, he brought up Kyle Wright back when Kyle Wright was in like rookie ball, single A ball. And I think, you have to give these guys a chance. So that's what I feel about it. Jorge says, I'm probably wrong, but I wouldn't be surprised if Newcomb would like to leave the Braves since he wants to be a starter. Yeah, but doesn't he have to? I mean, he might want to lead the Braves to be a starter, but doesn't he have to prove himself to other teams? I mean, who's going to pick up Newcomb on any sort of long term deal to be a starter? Or really any terms of high paying deal. I mean, I don't know how under contract he is. I haven't looked. I mean, he's obviously arbitration eligible, but I mean, the Braves were, thinking. I remember thinking Newcomb was going to be, a guy we counted on for a long time, and he just hasn't turned into that. Last year, he had a 4.7 ERA across 32 innings, and he hasn't been, I mean, his best year was probably 2019. He had a 3.16 ERA over 55 games. I guess that's the last year he was a starter. But in 2020, he had an 11.2 ERA. Now, again, it's a short stint there. I mean, he only pitched in 4 games, but it's just you can't. I mean, how long are we going to give Newcomb? I just don't see another team willing to pick him up, even if it's cheap. I mean, it's a spot on your roster. It's a pitching spot nonetheless. He's only getting paid $900,000 this year. I think the Braves see more value in keeping him around because they can get him cheap. He can cover. He can eat up innings. And yeah, I mean, I definitely think his goal is to be a starter. There's nothing wrong with having goals. I don't think it's realistic on the Braves, but to be honest with you, I don't know how realistic it is on any other major league team right now. I mean, he's got to improve and he's got to show improvement. I don't think we could trade Newcomb right now. I just don't. I mean, not for anything of value. I mean, maybe cash, but not of anything of real value. So I think we would be trading him to get salary off, but he's not even making that much. I think he's just a guy that's going to be there, to frankly eat up innings. That's the only thing that makes sense to me. And I get it. He wants to be a starter, but I need him to. He's got to do something to prove himself when it comes to that. So I get it. I just don't see it, that way. Jameson, he says he's got a lot of faith in Kyle right now, based on what he was able to do in the postseason last year. Yeah, I think so too. I think we have to. I think we have to take a step back and just watch, sometimes, and especially when it comes to guys that are young, like Kyle Wright. Like a lot of times, I think we're so quick to, oh, this guy's terrible, and I always go back to this, but I remember with Austin Riley, a lot of you guys that were back watching me back then, you guys thought I was just, I guess, an Austin Riley fanboy, which I guess I was, but, I thought that Riley could be consistent, and a lot of you guys just jumped on him, and, I'm not criticizing you guys, I get it. I mean, he had a rough stint there after he came up and performed well, but, I always go back to this because I remember it like yesterday that, people just couldn't stand Austin Riley. And it's because we had Josh Donaldson in the waiting and, they were debating whether or not we were going to re-sign him. And I think it's always, who can we get to next? When instead it should be, hey, let's watch this guy develop. We've seen Austin Riley develop. Let's watch Kyle Wright develop. That's how I feel about it. I mean, who would have thought Huascar Ynoa would have done what he did last year? Right? I mean, you just never know when somebody's going to click. John Smoltz at one time wasn't, worth anything. Tom Glavine, I'm sure, as well. Greg Maddux was always great, but that's beside the point. I think you have to watch these guys develop, especially in pitching. I mean, sometimes it just doesn't click early on. Richard Davis. Hey, let me see. Richard Davis says someone will be released and the Braves will pick someone up by next Thursday. Hopefully Culberson. Is Culberson available? I thought he got picked up by the Rangers again. I was told he got picked up. I believe he got picked up by the Rangers. I mean, I'd love to have Culberson back. I would do, just about anything. Did they release him? Yeah, 2 weeks ago, the Rangers reunite with Charlie Culberson. That's the only thing I've seen. Unless I'm missing something, I'd love to know if I am. But for right now, I can't tell if. Yeah, he's definitely making it in with the Rangers. That's 1 day ago, so he's still with the Rangers. But I appreciate it. But yeah, I'd love to get Culberson back. I think obviously he's with the Rangers. I don't think we're going to trade for him. I think Culberson or spend his year with the Rangers. But yeah, they reunited 2 weeks ago. But I mean, it'd be great to get him back for utility. I mean, he is the fundamental. He is the fundamental, utility player without a doubt. Jameson says, okay, if you saw or heard about the news that Tim Kirchin gave earlier today about the return of Ronald Acuna Jr. looking like it to be May 2nd. I think on May 2nd you'll see him be a DH. I think May 2nd, you can always pinpoint a date, but I don't think you should just pinpoint a date. I think it'll be sometime in May. I think it'll be about a month into the season, obviously, and I think it'll also be about he'll be a DH and he'll grow into being an outfielder again. You don't want to rush into anything. He looks healthy. He's hitting fine. But, I don't really want to see him stealing bases just yet. Is kind of where I'm at with it. Appreciate you guys tuning in. I know it's kind of late at night. Got a late start tonight. So I do appreciate you guys tuning in. Make sure to like the video while you're here. And, of course, if you're new, you've never seen this channel before, I'm Tyler. We talk about the Braves here. And subscribe so you can also talk about the Braves here. But yeah, obviously, guys, spring training is continuing to go, and it's going to go. And I think the early part of the year is going to be spring training. I really do for a lot of these guys. It's going to be a slow developmental out of spring training, and there's just for me no other way to look at it. Jackson wants to know, how is no one recording Matt Olson's AB? See, I knew there was a way I didn't see it. I would have seen that, and it's spring training, buddy. I don't know what to tell you. Richard Davis, Ozuna will play left field unless the Braves pick someone up before Thursday. We'll see. We'll see, but at the same time, I think Ozuna's probably in left field. If Alex Anthopoulos tells you that he's going to be in left field, I think he will be. But at the same time, I get it. I just don't think anybody's getting picked up before Thursday. At least nobody of major standing. It just doesn't make sense. Miguel says, hey, Tyler. Sorry, dadgummit. Miguel says, hey, Tyler, do you think that the Braves need another starting pitcher? I'm not comfortable about Anderson. The last performance of him, he was terrible against Boston. Again, you remember how not bad, but you remember how inconsistent the starting rotation was last year at the beginning of the year? And it obviously changed as time went on, but Charlie Morton wasn't consistent at the beginning of last year. We were, again, depending on Huascar Ynoa in a lot of ways. And I'm not just, truly, we were depending on him. So in terms of, do I think we need another one? No, I really don't. I think we have enough options to circle our heads right now. I don't want to pay anybody who's on the free agency market. It's nobody worth what they're asking for. I don't think the Braves really want to throw any money out there anyway. I think we're going to go with what they have. I think we're going to have to choose between Kyle Muller, Kyle Wright, Kyle Muller and Tucker Davidson, Spencer Strider, maybe even Touki Toussaint if it's not Huascar and Kyle Wright. So I think that's where I'm at with it. I've flirted with the idea that I keep flirting with the idea that for the past few weeks anyway, I flirted with the idea that we could go get a starting pitcher, but once once Pineda was out, I was like, okay, no, I think I'm good with what we have. I'd rather, just be, content with what the Braves have and analyze what they have. So I really think the back end of your rotation is not what you're counting on. It's the front end. Look at look at the 90s, right? You had Greg Maddux, Tom Glavine, John Smoltz. Beyond that, does anybody remember? I do, but a lot of people don't. Like Steve Avery, obviously, but a lot of those guys, Charlie Lee Brandt, they weren't Hall of Famers. They weren't, aces necessarily. Steve Avery was great in his day, but a lot of these guys, we're back into the rotation guys, and I think that's what right now Huascar Ynoa and Kyle Wright are. Not to say they couldn't be anything. They couldn't be Ian Anderson and Charlie Morton. But I think that's what the back end is. You're counting on Max Fried, Charlie Morton, and Ian Anderson for sure. But one bad performance isn't enough for me to, completely give up on a guy. I think that's a little bit too far there. But we'll see how it goes. I think, the Braves have to give it time to analyze what's going on. And that's, what's in their mindset, I think. Hitman says, I think we should trade Tookie for a better starting pitcher, but I don't know who Tookie has had. Oh, I don't know how, I guess. Tookie has had too many chances. I don't know another team that's going to go after Tookie. That's the thing. I think a lot of people, and I'm not criticizing you here, Hitman, I promise. Best there is, best there was, best there ever will be. When it comes to, I think, fans in general, I think a lot of times, I think we need to trade, Sean Newcomb and Tookie Toussaint for somebody. Well, okay. Imagine you're a general manager for, I don't know, the Yankees or the A's or any other team other than the Braves. Imagine you're a general manager and somebody comes to you and they're like, hey, we're going to give you Tookie Toussaint and Sean Newcomb. What do you want to give them back? What do you think that's going to get us, right? I think we could trade Tookie, but I don't know that we're going to get anything any better, and I think it would be pointless. I get it. He's had too many chances and all that, but at the same time, it's not so easy to just walk in somewhere and go, hey, I want so-and-so. We're going to give you this. Because they have to then approve it. It has to be a fair trade on their end, too. They have to, in their mind, they have to win the trade, right? And then you determine, how a trade is won over time. But they have to at least think that they have a good chance of winning the trade and looking good on the other end. And I don't think a lot of teams are really attracted to Tookie right now. Maybe if he has a good year this year, but, I think at this point, Tookie's going to be a Brave. I'd be surprised if he's anything else. Matthew says, hey, Tyler, this is off topic, but I'm a big fan of Bruce Willis because of all of his action movies. Yeah, Die Hard is a Christmas movie. I keep hearing Bruce Willis has some terminal disease I can't pronounce. Are we losing Bruce Willis? Buddy, I'm just going to be real with you. I don't know. That is not what I cover here, to tell you the truth. I've seen the news. I don't, I wish the best for Bruce Willis for sure, but I don't know. I wish I could give you a more in-depth analysis, but I don't know. I certainly hope not. But we'll see what happens. I know he stepped away from acting. That's all I really know. Okay, John Maine, that makes more sense. I said don't count Waters out. Sorry. I think you had a typo or I read it wrong or something. Richard Davis, they don't want Contreras to ride the bench in the bigs. He won't start the season in Atlanta. I completely agree. Miguel Freca, I think that the Braves have to trade Tookie and Newcomb. Too many opportunities. They can trade them, but remember, it's hard to get something back. I just don't think, it's necessarily easy to, trade somebody like those guys and expect, a major return. You might get prospects if somebody needs pitching depth right now, but, I feel like it would be sort of a dead trade at that point. I just don't see what you could get back. If these guys were Sean Newcomb and Tookie Toussaint 4 years ago, you'd probably get a major return because they, were thought to be the next big thing for the Braves, right? They were ranked high, but, they haven't aged well into that. Now the Braves, not to say that the Braves are stuck with them, but the Braves can't necessarily trade them like they have value because, to be honest with you, they don't. Same thing happened with Christian Pache. We got a good return out of Pache, but Pache, had to be accompanied with 3 other prospects. One was a major prospect in Shea Langoliers. And that was the trade that I think, had the most value. That was the piece in that trade that I think held the most value was Shea Langoliers at that time, to be honest with you. So it's really easy to just assume that the Braves are going to go trade Tookie Toussaint, Sean Newcomb because they're not performing to the level that the Braves want them to. But remember, they have to attract the eyes of another team. And that doesn't always happen easily, especially with guys like that. Richard Davis, why isn't 112 wins not realistic? I'm not saying it's not, Richard. If I was to put money on it, I'm going under 110. I just think 112 is very difficult. And to be honest with you, I'm not, necessarily set on the fact that the Braves starting pitching is there right now to carry us to 112 wins. I think what's important is, can we win the division? I think I would give you a for certain yes. But at the same time, I think 112 could be realistic if we had a more complete rotation. And maybe next year, even if we have the same exact rotation that we do right now, after a year of seeing these guys, I can tell you that 112 is realistic. But I can't guarantee to you that I think that the Braves are going to just outright dominate. Not to mention, the Mets have improved. We're going to have to play them. The Phillies have a good starting rotation. We're going to have to play them. And I just think that the National League East is a lot harder of a division than given credit for. Personally, I really do. So I think it's going to be difficult. They're all, arming themselves up. And I'm not telling you it's impossible. It certainly could happen. I would be through the roof if it happened. But if I was to put money on it, I'm going above 95, below 110. Look, it's a difference of 2, really. So I'm not saying it's not, I'm not saying it's impossible, but we'll see. At that point, you would only lose, 50 games? I think that's kind of difficult. But we'll see. Matthew. Hey, Tyler, hang on, you know what I'll do for you, Matthew? I will text him. How about that? He says, hey, Tyler, do you think Johnny Estrada believes that the Braves won the trade when they gave up Kevin Millwood? I don't know the answer to that question, but Millwood pitched a no-hitter right after. I will text him. I don't know if he's awake right now, but I will certainly text him and see what he says, and maybe I can give you a response, but no guarantees there. Let me send this message and I'll move on. I see Bradley. I guess you're asking about Duvall. He asked, when was it $6 million? I assume you're talking about Duvall. It was $6 million before he went to Miami, I believe. It was like a... Sorry, guys. Hang on a second. I'll just put... Okay. I'll let you know what he says, Matthew. I don't know if he'll respond tonight, but I will try my best to let you know what he says. Bradley says, when was it $6 million? It was $6 million right before he went to Miami. But again, that was, I guess, 2 years ago now. Knitter, best behavior. Says over under 8 players with 2,500 homers. Let me think. These are the players I think it could go above 25 homers. Are you ready? Here we go. Ozzy, Eddie, Riley, Olson, Ozuna, Dansby, I think could. I think he more than likely will, pending injuries. So that's 6. Duvall, I would say d'Arnaud, but the problem with d'Arnaud is he's only going to play, a certain amount of games. I'm going to go over. I'll go over there, but no guarantees. Because, you don't have, bench bats certainly aren't, so it's kind of hard. But if a catcher played every day, I think it'd be different. But for right now, I'll go over with you, just for the heck of it. Robert Gall has a super chat, and I'm going to skip to him, so let that be the example. Robert Gall, thanks for super chatting, thanks for watching, thanks for all that stuff. By the way, guys, since he did it, go ahead and like this video, subscribe to the channel, and of course, if you want your question answered now, super chat. But to answer your question, I'll be glad to answer it again, Robert. No, Newcomb is not done. I think he's a lock on the rotation to start out the year. I think they're going to carry extra pitchers and all that good stuff. But, I definitely think Newcomb has run out of chances in the starting rotation. I think he, very well might be running out of opportunities with the Braves. But I don't think it's, it's done yet. So we'll see. But no, I don't think Newcomb's done with the Braves. I think he's definitely going to at least be on the opening day roster. And I think at that point he'll be a Josh Tomlin type figure to cover innings. That's where I'm at the moment. But, we'll see how that ages. Sometimes I'm right, sometimes I'm wrong. So, again, we'll see. Thanks for you guys tuning in, by the way. Truly do appreciate it. Joe Mixon, I have a question. Why are there not as many good catchers as there were 20 years ago? I look at the current MLB, and I could think of 6 or 7 guys better than JT Realmuto playing in the late 90s, early 2000s. All right, let's look at this. What in Major League Baseball pays money? Otis Nixon talked about this the other day in the interview I did with him. What pays money? Is it guys that get on base? Is it guys that field their position really well? Is it, obviously pitching is a different scenario. Is it, in terms of catchers, is it guys that are going to hit you 40 homers, or is it guys that are going to perform behind the plate? A lot of the time, it's guys that are going to hit. JT Realmuto's a good player. Probably I think Will Smith's probably a better catcher. Obviously, the Dodgers, Will Smith. I think he's probably a better, like if I'm picking a team, I'm going Will Smith. I like d'Arnaud. I think d'Arnaud's a great catcher, to be honest with you. But the think about how many catchers we went through last year. I mean, the ability to find a really good catcher is hard. That's why I hated to lose Shea Langoliers, because I thought that he was so good, and that's such a hard thing to find right now. It's such a very valuable thing, because a lot of teams don't have very good catchers. They can either catch really well, like a Jeff Mathis, or they can hit really well, like a William Contreras right now. It's just so hard to develop both sides of that, because it is one of frankly, the most physically demanding positions there is. I think the game evolves. You don't have as many guys stealing bases. You don't have hardly anybody drag bunting anymore, right? Like, I think that the more, you pay for guys that only hit home runs, or the less you're going to see skills like catching, skills like, stealing bases. I mean, we don't have a Ricky Henderson type. We have plenty of guys that are fast, but nobody's Ricky Henderson, right? I mean, the closest thing to him, I think, in the past decade, since Ricky Henderson's probably Billy Hamilton. And, even him, who's fast as, anybody else, didn't do what Ricky Henderson did. The game is going to evolve. It'll shift back at some point. But right now, I mean, it's definitely a hard thing to find. Great question. I really appreciate that question. I appreciate that. Yeah, 116 wins is the most in history, and you're saying 112? Come on, man. Fair enough. Okay, thanks. Mark Narmore. I hope I get your name right. I feel like I always mess that one up, but I can never tell why. Sorry, guys. I'm trying to catch up. Make sure I haven't got any kind of message or anything. All right. Mark Narmore says, rate 1 out of 10. How do you think Soroka will contribute this year? He's not going to be back until like August. So, I mean, if you want to cut that in half and make it 1 out of 5, I would say after that, I expect it 3. So 6 out of 10, 7 out of 10 maybe. Playoff said that, 7 out of 10 contribution. I think that's the expectation. I mean, it could be 9 out of 10. It could be 4 out of 10. Like, it's hard to say. Like, we don't know when he's going to be around again, right? Like, we don't know when that's coming. So, hard to say. But I mean, if I had a crystal ball, I'd be able to tell you. But it's just hard to predict, to tell you the truth. James Gaffney says, do you see any attractive outside pitching options coming available right before opening day, veteran 4th or 5th? No, I do not. I think that the market is pretty much shut down at this point, and that the Braves did not really get a chance to act on it. We got a super chat, so I'm going to move down. Thanks, Corey Carter. You didn't even ask a question. So, Corey, if you got a question, put it in now so I can see it. But, yeah, I appreciate that. If it's just a super chat, I really, truly do appreciate it. Also, Jason Shepard has joined the chat. The Atlanta Braves and On Deck with Tyler Redmond rock. Thanks, Jason. Jason's a family friend, so I got to answer that. Thanks, Jason. Really do appreciate it. Thanks for tuning in. All right, Corey. He says, $4.99 just for your great effort and giving us a chance to talk Braves. I appreciate that. Truly, thank you. Anytime I get a super chat and don't have to do any work for it, that helps. So appreciate it. All right, let me see if I can find back where I was. Joe Mixon says he is an Austin Riley fanboy since the beginning. Well, Joe Mixon, I appreciate that. But do you have this? I've showed you this video tons of times. This is his first game, second at bat. I was actually walking with Walter Banks. We're down in the what I call the rich people section, the Jimmy Carter seats, right behind home plate. And I was talking to Walter as he was giving me one of the many tours he's given me. I'm glad I recorded it. That's what I'll leave it at, because I can say that I was there and I believed in Austin Riley from the beginning. All right, I'm going to pause on the chat because I just got a text back from Johnny Estrada, which is a very weird thing to say. So to answer your question, Matthew, do you think Johnny Estrada believes the Braves won the trade when they gave up Kevin Millwood? He says the Phils did not win with Millwood. All I did was keep the streak going. 14 straight, baby. Or all it did was keep the streak going. 14 straight. So that's what I give you when you subscribe to On Deck. I text who you want me to text. So don't give me anything crazy, but Johnny Estrada is always a resource I like to use. So appreciate the question. Glad I could get you an answer directly from the source. The Phillies did not win with Millwood, so there you go, from the man himself. Corey Carter, I wonder if the fact that the Braves are going into arbitration on some key players along with Freeman leaving will change the core of the team too much to repeat. I think it is a valid concern. I do think it's a valid concern. I don't think it's something that is going to have any ground. I think that they've embraced Matt Olson. I mean, time will tell. But at the end of the day, I think that Matt Olson's going to be a guy that fits in well with the clubhouse. I don't think that's necessarily going to be a problem. I definitely think the Freeman leadership is something. But at the same time, you're getting a lot of folks back. You're getting Ozuna back. You're getting Soroka back. At some point, you're getting Acuna back. I think that you're getting so many good pieces back, and you're adding frankly a really good piece of Matt Olson. You know, I think it's I think it'll be interesting because you're coming in with a different team. You know, it's not exactly the same team. You lost Jock Peterson, you lost Jorge Soler, you know, you lost Freddie Freeman, but at the same time, I mean, you got a really good team, so it'll be interesting. I think, you know, whenever they release a documentary on the Braves. In a few years on the World Series team, the year after, and they talk about this type of stuff, one of the biggest talking points is going to be the differences of one year to the next in terms of how the team, you know, related to each other in the clubhouse and that kind of thing. So I hopefully they make that in a few years. But yeah, I definitely think that, you know, it's going to be different. I don't think it's going to change the core of the team because I think the core of the team doesn't revolve around one person. But it'll be interesting. I mean, we bring up that timetable all the time, right? I mean, this is what you're kind of referring to. You got a lot of guys hitting arbitration, for sure. I don't think you're bringing back Duvall, not for $18 million on a qualifying offer. I just don't see it. Swanson, I think you're bringing back, and I think he's a core member of the team. And I don't mean that with any disrespect towards Duvall, but Duvall is paid to play on the Braves, right? Dansby was all but drafted by the Braves, so I think that's a little bit different. I think you'll probably bring Luke Jackson back based on what he does this year. And if Guillermo Heredia showed us anything, is that he wants to be a Brave because he signed a deal before the lockout for $1 million when he probably, you know, just from name value alone during the World Series, could have gotten more on some other team. So that's what I think about it. I mean, but even the next year, you're losing, you know, Charlie Morton, Will Smith, and Eddie Rosario. So, I mean, we'll see what happens, right? I mean, it's a long way away. I don't know if it's too much enough to stop a repeat, but I definitely think it's you know, going to be interesting to see how the team evolves. But again, we'll see. Corey Carter also says that he hates to see that Brock Holt asked for his release. Obviously, I do too. He was part of that big week thing we did the other day. We covered that video. We talked about this earlier on, but I know a lot of you guys are tuning in late. Appreciate you tuning in late. Appreciate you tuning in, period. Thanks for the super chats. And again, if you guys can like the video, I would appreciate it. But yeah, I mean, I hated to see Brock Holt already decided to go. I think he probably, you know, decided that he could get more money elsewhere, maybe get, you know, it's been said, I don't know if it's confirmed, but it's been said that he, you know, found out he wasn't going to make the team, and once he found out, he asked for his release, probably to try his hand somewhere else. Can't blame him, you know. I mean, it's his choice, obviously. He asked for his release. The Braves were willing to give it to him, and, you know, he competed. We appreciate the service. You know, that's how I view it. I hate that he asked for his release. I think he could have been good. I think he could have, you know, maybe been a bench player and been on a you know, a team with the Braves for a year or two, but we'll see. Let me see. Philip Powell says, "Are you concerned with Kyle Muller and Wright, Kyle Muller and Ian Anderson's performances?" To tell you the truth, no. Because again, I think one performance is, you know, too little to, the judge, like Kyle Muller today, I'll be honest with you, I didn't get to watch the game. I don't even know if it was broadcasted. But Kyle Muller, I think the value in Kyle Muller is he's young. You have to let him, develop. And until he does, I don't have high expectations. I think you have a problem when you go in with these guys and you have high expectations immediately. I think high expectations develop, right? Like everybody's got high expectations for Soroka to come back. I do not. I want to see Soroka, come back and be healthy first, and then we'll talk about, high expectations on the mound. In terms of Kyle Muller, I think it's one game. In terms of Ian Anderson, again, I think it's one game. I think there's probably reason to be concerned, maybe for the early part of the season, but I don't think it's going to have a lasting effect. I mean, he's had appearances that weren't so great at the major league level in regular season games and bounced back from it, and shown up right after. So I think it's one appearance for both of those guys, and, we'll see what happens next. But no, I'm not overly concerned. I'm definitely, raised an eyebrow a little bit, but nothing, I'm not worried. If that's what you're asking. Miles Elder, thanks for tuning in, man. What do you think the Braves' chances of winning the NL East again? Looks like the rest of the division has improved. Yeah, I just sort of highlighted that. We talked about that a good bit in the offseason and in the early part of spring training and since the lockout because, before the lockout, the Mets signed Scherzer, right? And that's a huge deal. And as good as Scherzer has been in his career, I'm just not overly fearful of the Mets. And I know that sounds stupid. I mean, it truly does. The Mets are a good team. I don't think they have what the Braves have in the lineup, to tell you the truth. I just don't. But their starting rotation's good. I mean, it's probably a lot more solidified than what the Braves have right now. All right? I think anybody could agree with that, right? I mean, just in the starting rotation, you have Jacob deGrom and Max Scherzer and Trevor Williams even. You have a lot of good pitching over there. Adam Ottavino's in the pen, right? Like Seth Lugo. They have a lot more guys that I think are solid. At least, Carlos Carrasco, at least in the starting rotation, you got, a solid 5. And I don't think that the Braves do. I think the Braves have competition at 5. But even then, I think the Braves have a dang good pen. I don't think anybody in the division, I don't think anybody in the league is touching what the Braves have in the bullpen right now. I just don't. And in terms of the lineup, I think that the Braves lineup can compete with anybody, definitely within the division. And, I think it competes with the Dodgers, who, arguably lead the National League as a whole. So I think that the lineup itself, with everybody healthy, I think it's easily the best in the division. I think, it's been the most consistent over the past few years. I think the pitching is going to be good, but at the same time, it's definitely something to raise an eyebrow at the starting rotation. It's no doubt that the starting rotation is the biggest concern, right? So for the Mets, you got Jacob deGrom, Max Scherzer, more than likely Chris Bassett, Carlos Carrasco, and Taijuan Walker, right? So for the Braves, instead, you got Max Fried, who I think matches up well against Jacob deGrom any given day. I think Jacob deGrom's obviously the better of the two if you really got down to it. But Max Fried's more than serviceable. Charlie Morton's a good veteran to put up against Max Scherzer. And then beyond that, it's Ian Anderson, who's been great, for the past few years. And then beyond that, that's when the real question comes. Can Huascar Ynoa and Kyle Wright, or a mixture of them plus Tucker Davidson and crew, Kyle Muller and Touki Toussaint or Spencer Strider, can they compete with that rotation? I think that's going to be a talking point throughout the entire year. But beyond that, the bullpen, you can't convince me that there's a bullpen better than what the Braves have. I'm sorry. And granted, they got to be healthy. They got to do all what they need to do when the time is right. But I think overall the Braves are the best team in the division right now. I just do. Obviously they won a World Series last year. I think expectation. You can never expect to repeat a World Series championship. You can't expect that unless your name's Dave Roberts. You can't expect that. But I think you can expect the National League East. I think that should be an expectation. And I think that's what is the expectation as of right now. If you watch Behind the Braves, I'll watch today's episode later, but if you watch Behind the Braves, Brian Snitker, when he addressed the team, we're focused on winning the NL East because we can't do anything else until we do that. That's the right mindset to me. And I know a lot of people are going to, look at Dave Roberts. He's going to get all the media attention in the world. I have all the respect in the world for Dave Roberts. But I think the right mindset's winning the division because the Dodgers overlooked their division a bit last year. Look at what the Padres did early on last year. Look at what the Giants were able to do. The Dodgers weren't the Dodgers a wild card team last year. I mean, we're talking about something that the division is hard enough to win, much less beyond that. So I think their chances are great. I think they're probably better than they were halfway through the year last year, for sure. So we'll see. Corey Carter, not worried about Anderson. He could have been working on a pitch because spring training is the time to do that. Exactly. You don't know what's going on in spring training, right? Like they might have told Ian Anderson, "Hey, you're only throwing curveballs today. You're only throwing fastballs. You need to work on your cutter. You need to whatever, right? Like you don't know what they're telling him. So it's going to be interesting." UE Edits says we should have tried to get Kershaw. That would have been interesting. But at the same time, I kind of like the fact that Kershaw is going to be a forever Dodger, hopefully, right? I definitely think that is a good thing to have in baseball. I don't think we get it enough, but it would have been interesting if they did for sure. John Main says, who remembers Derek Lilliquist? The name sounds familiar. I know who he is, but I don't believe he was in my era, to tell you the truth, John Main. I'll look him up and confirm that. But I do know the name. I know him, I remember it fairly. Yeah, he's a little too old, I think, for me to remember. Let me see. So he finished his career 3 years before I was born. I was born in 99. He finished his career up in 96. So I can't say I remember. I definitely remember the name. Early on, he pitched in 89 with the Braves, 90, went to the Padres, then to Cleveland and Boston and Cincinnati. So too old for me, I'll tell you the truth. But, I definitely appreciate the people that do. Corey Carter, we can go with what we have and add at the trade deadline where we need to. Thank you, Corey. We always leave money in our budget for deadline acquisitions. And I think that's the best mindset, right? Like, see what your team does first half of the year. I mean, who would have thought last year, the Braves, who would have thought that? And I think that was obviously because of the trade deadline. Richard Davis, the Braves are young. They can or will get better with every game, hopefully, especially the pitching. I think so too. Joe Mixon, I remember John Burkett being a late spring training cut that we signed in 2000, and he made an all-star game the next year with us. John Burkett. Yeah, I mean, you just never know who's it going to be, right? Mark Perez, how does Matt Olson look in spring training? Is he ready to put up monster numbers? Mark, apparently he hit a home run today, but there's no video of it. So that's what I'll tell you. That's all we really know. I think he's going to be good, though. I think he's going to be solid. Jeremy, just got in on this. Sorry if it's a repeated question. How is Matt Olson meshing with the other players in the clubhouse? I think he's doing fine. Him and Dansby have a friendship going back a few years. They're cool, if that's what you're wondering about. I think he's going to mesh fine. I think his personality fits with with what the Braves have been over the past few years, the Dansby Swansons, the Austin Rileys. And I think he's going to fit in well with the team as a whole. I mean, he seems to be a very friendly person. I don't know the guy, so it's kind of hard for me to say. But, I mean, he definitely seems like a friendly person. And I don't think we're going to have a problem there. We'll see, though. Corey Carter says, if the rug got pulled out from under Glavine and Smoltz as fast as today's young pitchers, get it, we may have never heard of them. Anderson has pitched great in playoff games, and people worry about spring training. Agreed. That's why I like talking to some of the not the older guys, but older guys. Leo Mazzoni's a good example, but you made me think of Denny McLain, who it was his birthday, I think, yesterday, and I went and revamped his. I interviewed Denny McLain a few years ago. If you don't know who Denny McLain is, he pitched on the 1968 Tigers, and he is the last 30-game winner for a starting pitcher. So, he was a good interview, and he's very opinionated, much like Leo is. If you haven't seen it, it's a pretty good interview. It's longer, but it's in depth. He talks about Al Kaline. I mean, he talks about a lot of folks of that era. for the Tigers, but he also talks about pitching today. And he goes, the way he describes it is, pitching coaches and managers run out there with the ambulances, after one guy gets on base. Let a guy get out of trouble. And I agree with you. I think if it had happened to Glavine and Smoltz, it'd been very similar to what Kyle Wright is right now. So we'll see how it ages, but I completely agree with you. Hitman says he agrees with me. Maybe let Tookie and Sean perform this year and then trade them. Yeah, but it's hard, right? Like you want to get some return. You can't just trade them just because you want to trade them, right? You got to have a purpose. And I think you have to convince other teams that they can win because they have Sean Newcomb on the mound. And it's hard to do that when he's not putting up those numbers. So we'll see. But right now, I don't think they're there right now. Joe Mixon, Anderson pitched 5 no-hit innings in a freaking World Series. I'm not concerned about a meaningless spring training. All right, lay off. We get it. We get it. It's okay. Richard Davis says, I think Johnny Cueto is still out there, just saying. The Braves could pick up a veteran pitcher cheap like they have done in the past. Yeah, but I don't think they need to. I'll look him up, but I've done it before. I mean, I've looked up his stats probably twice since spring training started because everybody wants... I think there's excitement when we talk about... anytime I do a trade video or, like if you go way back on the channel, you'll see me, can the Braves get Nolan Arenado? This was during the Austin Riley talk we were just talking about. Can the Braves go get Nolan Arenado? Can they go get so-and-so? Those videos always do well because I think there's a lot of excitement, with possibilities of new players, right? And naturally, right, there's going to be that excitement. And I think a lot of people, when the Braves did all of what they did over the past few weeks, with Matt Olson especially, there was naturally a lot of excitement. Obviously, the channel is very grateful for that. But at the same time, I try not to overhype certain things. And just because there's somebody on the market, there's 30 teams in MLB. You're telling me none of them, no other team can use a veteran starting pitcher in Johnny Cueto? How much money is Johnny Cueto wanting? How much, can he really give? I mean, last year he was 7-7 and with a 4 ERA. Yeah, he's a veteran. Yeah, he can give you innings. Yeah, he could be a 4th starter. But at the same time, why not give that spot to, Waskari Noah, who had a great year last year early on. And of course, we talked about it the other day. We talked about it the other day where we gave you his splits, the first and second half of the year. This is where you have to let guys develop. Waskari Noah's also got the stuff you see on the first half. He was 4-2 before he broke his hand. Had 50 strikeouts in that time, but the ERA was good. Everything was good. We were counting on him to win games, and not to mention his bat. I think we all remember that. But in the second half, he struggled because for one, he was coming off injury. He fell out of routine, all that stuff. But he's a guy that I think can perform, and why not give him that shot? That's how I feel about it, and I get when why people don't. I completely understand. You want to get a veteran as somebody you trust. Johnny Cueto's had a good career, and was, performing in postseasons not that long ago. And, obviously I just don't think he's there anymore. And I get it, just because he's a veteran doesn't mean he's the best option. Right. And with Johnny Cueto, I like Johnny Cueto just fine. He played throughout a lot of my childhood, to tell you the truth. And he's a very energetic player. I think he'd fit in well with the clubhouse. Even then, it might not be the best option for the Braves, and I get it. Again, naturally, there's a lot of excitement when you talk about new players and possibilities of new additions. But at the same time, it's not necessarily something that you want to start all the time, right? And I really think Waskari Noah and Kyle Wright are where we need to put our focus. And again, we'll see how it ages. We'll see what happens with them throughout this season, but that's where I think we're at. And that's where I think Alex Anthopoulos and Brian Snitker are, is letting these young guys have that chance, because they haven't had that chance, right? I mean, think about what we used to be. Think about what the Braves used to be a few years ago. Fulte, Newcomb, Tookie, right? And I'll even throw in Tehran. And, beyond that, it was all minor leagues. It was all who's next. Right? And that's what we really used to focus on. And then Max Fried became number one. Fulte fell off. Newcomb fell off. Tookie, never really amounted to be a number 3. So, Soroka gets hurt. Fried and Soroka were supposed to be 1 and 2 for a while. Then Soroka gets hurt, so he signed Charlie Morton. Right, big deal, bigger deal than it was ever made out to be in any types of media, but it was a big deal. And then beyond that, it's like, okay, well, who's next? And it's Ian Anderson, right? And then it's always been, what veteran pitcher can we go get? I mean, do you want to go get a Tommy Malone or Robbie Erlin? I don't miss those days, right? Like, I don't miss those. I appreciate the fact that we have guys that are wanting to show what they can do at the major league level. And I think Kyle Muller, Tucker Davidson, Spencer Strider are the next guys to do that. But you have a definite 1, 2, and 3. You got 2 spots. Let there be competition. Competition makes everybody better, and I think that's what the Braves are doing. And I appreciate that they're finally letting some of the young stars, get that chance again, because for a long time they just didn't give them that chance. And I appreciate the fact they're doing that. I mean, look at how much Huascar Ynoa came up. I mean, first year he was coming out for 1 inning and not doing very well, right? I think you have to give them chances to show their worth. So I get it. I get we want to talk about Cueto. I get we want to look at veterans out there and all that. But I think overall they're going to give prospects a chance to show themselves. And I'm cool with that. I think we all need to appreciate what they're doing and take it for what it is. And it is the future. And that is what it's going to be. All right. Corey Carter, I'm not worried about the regular season wins. I expect us to make the postseason. All I care about is postseason wins. Well, you do have to win in the regular season to make it to the postseason, right? You have to win the division. That's what the goal is. I don't care how many wins it is either. What did we win last year? Like 86? I think we were better than 86 wins, so it doesn't matter to me. And that's probably, I think it was 86, right? Was it 86? Was it 86 last year? I hope so, because otherwise I'm going to look stupid. Let me see. 88. Okay, we're an 88 win team, right? All right, so it could have been 89 when, with Alec Bohm, whether or not he touched home plate, right? Like, there's so many little things that can happen that could influence one game. So for me, I don't really care about there being 112, whatever. I care so more about winning the division and moving on. And because once you do that, you can go anywhere. You can win National League, you can win the World Series, and of course we all saw that last year. The old man says, "Come on, people, hit the like button." I don't think you're that old, but if you think you're that old, okay. But yeah, hit the like button, people. Hit it. Thank you. Thanks for the comment, and thanks for tuning in. And if you're a new subscriber, make sure to subscribe. So I do appreciate that, and I appreciate all you guys tuning in. It really does help. Again, guys, like the video, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell for notifications so that you know when I go live, and of course when I drop other videos as well. And of course, much like Corey Carter and Robert Gall did earlier, if you want to talk to me directly, if you want your question answered right now, super chat. That's the only way I can narrow it down to just you. But I always answer those immediately or as quick as I can. But everybody else, gotta wait your turn. Trinity Clark says, "What's up? What's up, Trinity? How you doing?" Jameson says, "My opinion, I think whatever we get Mike Soroka should be considered gravy." Yeah, I think so too, and I think that's what the Braves are thinking. I think that they're relying on, Ian Anderson, Charlie Morton, Max Fried, Charlie Morton, Ian Anderson in that order, and then beyond that, Huascar Ynoa, Kyle Wright, whatever they can do, they're counting on, and then they're counting on the bullpen to sort of make up the difference there. And that's great, but I think anything Mike Soroka gives is extra. Much like you said, it's gravy. So I think that's what they're viewing too, and I think it's going to be a great addition. It'll be like a free agency addition at the trade deadline when Soroka comes back. So it'll be fun. Corey Carter says he remembers when the home umpire showed up Estrada in Miami. I don't know if Estrada's watching. I think I just texted him in bed, to tell you the truth, because he was up really early this morning. I was talking to him about something else. But I've never seen that. I would like to see it. But we'll see. I might go looking for that. I'll text him later. I don't want to bother him too much tonight. John Main, Soroka worries me with his health and the fact that he hasn't pitched any meaningful innings in so long. He may need several months in AAA to find his groove again. Maybe, but I definitely think he's going to get the attention in Major League Baseball to start the year this year, and I think in the offseason is what that's for. I mean, yeah, he hasn't thrown meaningful innings and all. I get all that, but at the same time, I don't think they're going to give him several months in the minors. I think it'll be more so, they'll develop in the minors, get him throwing on a decent stride, and then they'll pull him up. And whatever he can give it, say, 70-80% might be better than what, Kyle Wright or Oscar Inoue or somebody else can give it at 100, right? So it depends. I mean, I think we're not counting on Soroka this year. I think that's the important thing. We're again, much like Jameson said, it's considered extra. So we'll see. He may come out of the pen. We don't know. I mean, it's gonna be interesting. He might be the Josh Tomlin type to eat innings and just get his stamina back and all that. But we'll see. Thanks for that, John. Mark Perez says, is Matt Olson Braves swag available in the Braves shop? I think his jersey is on Fanatics. I haven't been to the Braves shop lately since he got picked up, so I don't know. I couldn't tell you that if somebody in the chat wants to answer that, but I haven't seen anything. I think there's some stuff on Fanatics. I would just order it, honestly, from Fanatics. Corey Carter, the Braves need to go off to a good start this year to see the post-Freddie era. Yeah, I think so. Or to set the post-Freddie tone. I definitely think, we need to start the post-Freddie era off with some success, whether that be, repeating or whether that be, just winning the division again. I think that would be a good sign. So we'll see what happens, but I definitely think that it would be nice to set a tone into a new era, because it is a new era. And we'll see how it goes. But Joe Mixon says the Reds will keep Minor until the trade deadline to flip him for a minor leaguer. Maybe. I mean, Mike Minor was a guy I did a video on, 2 years ago now, when we needed pitching so bad we couldn't stand it, right? Mike Minor was a guy I thought we could go get, and I'm sure the Braves put feelers out, but the market wasn't there. So I wouldn't mind getting Mike Minor back. I mean, he's been pretty decent. If we get Mike Minor back, I think we ought to go get Jeff Mathis as well. Just joking. Trinity Clark, I don't think the Braves lack leadership. I believe in Ozzie and Dansby. They will be the leaders and the captains of this team in the future. I don't think there's to tell you the truth, I don't think there's a huge need for a leader. I think that everybody sets the example. I think Ron Washington's a great leader. I think Brian Snitker's a great leader. It doesn't have to be the players. I think Ron Washington has, set the example for a lot of those guys for both those guys you just mentioned, and Ozzie Albies and Dansby Swanson, the infielders. Austin Riley, I'll throw him in there as well. So, in terms of leadership, I think the Braves have plenty of leadership. I think, it doesn't have to be somebody, that is the determined leader. Sometimes it works better as a team, and that, all credit due to Freddie Freeman. He was undoubtedly the leader, but, sometimes it's just, we're going to do our job as a team. And I think that's what this team will be. I mean, we'll see if somebody steps up. Maybe that's Dansby Swanson. Maybe it's, I think he's more the rah-rah type, as Joe Simpson put it. But, there's some quiet leaders as well. And I think Austin Riley's a quiet leader. I think Adam Duvall's probably a quiet leader. Matt Olson very well might be a quiet leader. I don't know if he'll do it the moment he gets traded over. But, I mean, Jock Peterson was a leader last year, and he was here 3-4 months. So it just depends, right? It's who steps up, who wants to be the leader, and who's listened to. But we'll see how it goes. Jameson, agreed that Dansby Swanson would definitely come back to the Braves next year, specifically because he is a native Georgia kid. Maybe doesn't always work out that way. Trinity Clark, hey Tyler, who do you think the Braves value more, Soroka or Fried? I think the Braves value Soroka more, but in my opinion, I like Max more. What do you think? Well, I think right now they value Max more, to tell you the truth, because Max is the one throwing innings right now. But I don't think they value one or the other more. I think they probably look at them very similarly. I think Soroka was at the top of his game before he got hurt. I think at that point they valued Soroka more, but at this point, Max has proven himself. And I think they've both proven themselves. So if Soroka can get healthy again and pitch innings again and all that, I think that, they'll view them similarly. I mean, who do they value more, Glavine or Smoltz? That's how I think they view it. I don't think it's, necessarily, one or the other. I think it's a mixture of both. Billy Power Mac says, is Freddie Freeman our mortal enemy now? No, stop it. He is not. Joe Mixon, 106 win wildcard team. LOL. Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. They're a very good team. The Dodgers are look, I'll give all the credit in the world. The Dodgers are a great team, or at least they have been in recent years. But they made some mistakes last year in the postseason, and mistakes that I think came back to bite them. Most notably, pitching Scherzer in game 7 against the Giants in the NLDS. That was stupid to me, and he had a dead arm because of it. So we'll see. I don't know. Let me see. Joe Mixon says he spent $700 on World Series merch. I know I spent at least $300 the night of. I went to Academy the night of in Columbus, and I literally dropped $300, no problem. So I'm sure of it. I'm probably up there with you, Joe. I don't know exactly how many, but we'll see. Jordan Baldovi, Aloha Tyler, 2 questions. Who was the first baseball player you received an autograph from, and what former active Brave would you like to interview? The former active Brave question, I'll answer that one first. Would I like to interview? I think, before he passed, I think the obvious one was Hank. That was definitely an obvious choice. At this point, I would love to interview anybody. I like talking to, and I'm going to say this with all due respect to all of them, but whether it be a low-level guy or whether it be a high-level guy, I like talking to all of them because they all have fun stories. They all have stories about things that happened or, being around Bobby Cox, that kind of thing. They all have those stories. So it's always fun to hear them. But beyond that, in terms of one player I'd like to interview, Chipper Jones. I've said that before on this channel. I don't make any, I don't try to hide that. I'd love to interview Chipper Jones. I don't know if it'll ever happen, but I'd love to do it because he's the guy I grew up watching. He's the guy that, made me love baseball in a lot of ways. But beyond that, any of those guys. Brian McCann, Tom Glavine, Greg Maddux, John Smoltz. Any of those guys. I've interviewed Andrew Jones. That was really cool for me because I watched those guys, right? Phil Niekro was great. I thought that was a cool interview. Leo Mazzoni, another good one. But even, Ron Reed, who's a guy that I know most of you guys probably don't know. He played on the Phillies on the World Series team back in 1980. He played on the Braves as well. He was best friends with Phil Niekro. Anybody, stories like that, I love capturing that. And anytime you can interview a former player or I'd love to interview John Sherholtz, pick his brain, tell you the truth. I'd love to do that. Alex Anthopoulos as well, because I think they have a great mind for the game. And I think they're very similar as well. So for me, anybody like that, but most notably probably Chipper. Aloha, by the way. In terms of the first baseball player I ever received an autograph from, it's hard for me to really remember. I want to say it's Jeff Francoeur. And I'm going to tell you why it's hard. I was like 8, so cut me some slack. Jeff Francoeur came to my town and did a speaking engagement at the college I actually currently go to at CSU. So I was probably 9, and the story behind it is he finished. Of course, I had an autograph ready to go. I had a ball and pen ready to go. And this is when Jeff Francoeur was on the cover of Sports Illustrated and all that. Anyway, he finished and he happened to sit down. This is a big arena. He happened to sit down, if I'm in the aisle, I'm in the aisle seat. And he's across the aisle from me about 1 row down. Nobody else is around him. So they finish the ceremony. He's sitting right there. And I run over to him. Can you sign my baseball? And he signed it. He's very nice about it. I think we're all aware Jeff Francoeur is a very nice person. But he signed it and all that. And he got swarmed by 100, 200 people. And they did an announcement. Jeff Francoeur can't sign autographs for everybody. He's got to get on a plane and go somewhere. But he signed mine, and I think probably at least 10 or 20 others. But he signed mine. That's the one I remember. But I can't remember if that was first or if this one was first. At Turner Field, I think I was 10, so I guess Frank Cooper was first, but I'll tell you the story anyway. I was walking through Turner Field, and I look up in the stands, and there's two guys sitting up there, and I didn't know who they were. I was 10 years old, but it was Leo Mazzoni and Mark Lemke, and I got them on a ball. It's still up there, somewhere up there. It's actually the ball we caught in batting practice, hit by Albert Pujols. So that's cool, but it's Mark Lemke, Leo Mazzoni. The same day I ran into Newt Gingrich, who, if you don't know who that is, he was former Speaker of the House. He ran for president a few years ago. He signed that ball. I want to say Johnny Venner signed that ball, a few other folks. Anyway, that's the early ones. And then since then, I've gotten a little bit more, solidified on how I go about it. But yeah, those are the first ones. So it's cool now that, I've interviewed Leo Mazzoni because he was one of the first guys I ever got to sign a baseball. So, and it was when I was really young. And, I told him that a few years ago, and he kind of got a kick out of it. But, it's cool to have stories like that. So I appreciate the question. Corey Carter says, I'll see your Derek Lilliquist and raise you a Joe Bover. I'll see your Bover and raise you a Biff Pokeroba. How about that? Hitman, that's what I was saying. See what they do this year, and if they good, trade them. Yeah, maybe. We'll see. Joe Mixon said you should try to interview Tony Schiavone. I guess I'll go ahead and announce this. I got a couple interviews planned. I got a couple of them that I'm actually trying to set up for sure. I'm interviewing Casey Motter. Casey is the guy who he does this, frankly.
Hello, baseball fans. You're watching On Deck with Tyler Redmond.
So he's that voice. So I'm interviewing him pretty soon. We haven't set up a time and date, but I've got the approval to do that from the Braves. So we're going to do that at some point or another. He's a good friend of mine. Should be a fun interview. Give you his backstory and tell you some of the stories he can tell from the press box, right? So that'll be a fun one. Got one planned that I can't really tell you about because it's not 100% confirmed. But I can tell you it is a prospect for the Braves. So we'll do that. That's all I can really tell you. And we'll do that hopefully soon, but I got to get the confirmation on that before I can tell you that it's confirmed because I don't want to do that. Richard Davis, so that's what I can tell you right now. But we do have some more interviews planned, so stay tuned for those. And by the way, guys, if you didn't check it out, the views of it are not real up right now, so I guess I'll just tell you now. Go check out the Leo Mazzoni video I just dropped, I guess, this morning or yesterday. I think it was yesterday. The pitching wisdom of Leo Mazzoni, because it's basically a 5-minute rant by Leo Mazzoni just talking to kids about what they should and shouldn't do and how not to hurt their arms. It's really telling of who Leo is and his philosophy, and it's a good one to watch, especially if you're a Leo Mazzoni fan like I am. It's a fun one for sure. Glad I recorded it. Matthew Brittingham, hey Tyler, do you think MLB should change the rules so the DH can also hit for the catcher or just the pitcher? That way guys like Freed and Ohtani can hit sometimes without losing the DH. I don't know what the fix is, to tell you the truth. I think the DH, it would be interesting if the guys did, it would be interesting if they did a DH to hit for any position. I think that would be interesting. But I don't really know what the fix is. I think they're messing with baseball a little too much, to tell you the truth. I actually asked Marvin Freeman about that the other day, and he said that he liked the fact that there's not a DH because it's an easy out he can count on, and it's also an at bat he gets. So I think they're messing with the game a little too much, and we'll see what happens there. Mark Perez, when do you predict Michael Harris coming up to the big leagues? It could be next year. It could be the year after. Sorry, it could be the year after. It could be. I mean, anytime. Hang on, I'm kind of lost my place. I think it's hard to say because he keeps performing well, but he's got guys that are supposed to be in front of him, like Drew Waters. So it's hard to tell. That's why I don't think you have Duvall come back next year. I'd be surprised. Probably depends on how he develops this year and how Drew Waters develops. But maybe next year, maybe the year after. I definitely think Drew's got to come up before he does. I would think, right? And at that point, you wonder, well, what's wrong with Drew Waters, right? I think that's when those questions begin. So, Richard Davis, remember a lot of so-called Braves fans wanted to trade at the deadline last season. We're not going to say that Braves fans are not Braves fans. We're not going to do that. But I will say that, yeah, I think a lot of people jump the gun a lot of times. I talked about that earlier. A lot of folks jump the gun and want to trade guys that are bad when in reality they just have to develop or they have to, the seasons are marathons. And I think, a lot of people don't realize that. They treat it more like football. And that doesn't really work a lot of the time. We got a super chat, so I got to scroll down and skip you guys. I'll come back to you as quick as I can. Corey Carter, again, thank you. The first game he ever went to was the Braves versus the Reds. Pete Rose was the manager, and it went 18 innings. Lonnie Smith hit a game-winning triple. The first one I ever went to was rained out. It was in 05 at some point. I don't remember who it was against. I think it was the Diamondbacks. But yeah, it was rained out. So that was the first one, but the next one was fun about a year later. I spent more time at Turner Field in like the Cartoon Network section, I think, because I was only like 5 or 6. But that's a good one. I mean, that's definitely one to remember. I've been at a few entertaining ones. I think the one that most people are like, oh, wow, really, you were there, was the Acuna Grand Slam against the Dodgers. I was there for that one. I was obviously there for Riley's first homer. I was there for the. If you guys remember last year when Freddie hit the walk-off, but it wasn't a homer. It was a walk-off, and it hit the dude's foot and bounced off into like foul territory. I was there for that one. I was there for a lot of the games last year. I was there when we clinched the division versus the Phillies. I was at game 3 of the NLDS where Jock homered against the Brewers. I was at game 1 of the NLCS where Riley walked it off and hit a homer in it. I was at game 6 where, of course, Eddie Rosario hit the 3-run bomb. I went to the Battery for Duvall hitting a grand slam in the World Series. So I've been in a lot of them. It's always a fun time at the Brave Stadium. I mean, there's never a bad day, but you had a pretty good first one. That's cool, man. I appreciate the super chat. I got a lot of you guys tuning in late, and that tends to be the case. We're going to try to get as many of you guys in as I can. A lot of you guys got questions. I think I skipped over Joe Mixon. He said I should try to interview Tony Schiavone. I've met Tony Schiavone. He was outside of all places, he was outside the Brave Stadium. And he was very nice to me. I got a picture with him. But he's so busy in AEW now that, it's kind of hard to get in touch with him, I think. So we'll see. But yeah, I mean, I'd love to do it. I'll interview just about anybody. I'm not prejudiced. But we'll see. I'm going to scroll down a little bit. But Mark Perez, to answer your question a little bit more in depth, I mean, you look at the timetable for Michael Harris, right? And this is what I wanted to circle back to. You look at the timetable for Michael Harris. I definitely think that, with Duvall being gone, somebody's going to come up. I mean, because that's going to put the outfield in the same situation that the starting rotation's in right now, where it's like, okay, do we go get a veteran or do we trust our prospects that we've raised, right? I think they're going to have to debate that. And, you have valuable prospects, so I think you got to use them, whether it's Drew Waters, whether it's Michael Harris. So next year will be telling, and I think next year very well might be Drew Waters, and then the following year might be, with Rosario gone, it might be Michael Harris, and I think that's the future of the outfield. But it's hard to tell, man. I mean, because I thought Waters was going to come up well by now. So we'll see. Things change. The team evolves and the game evolves. So we'll see what happens. And some guys make it, some guys don't. So we'll see. But yeah, I definitely think you're looking at a year at least for Michael Harris. Jose, I love players like Morton as much as anyone, but I like how we don't just trade for anyone that will have an immediate impact because there's a charm in winning with the guys you developed yourself. I agree. And that's what I think the charm is, that's the charm, I think, in, and what we're doing right now is giving those guys a chance, Kyle Wright and Waskar. We'll see how it ages. I mean, if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. But I definitely think there is a charm in that. Jameson. Back how the Braves go about developing their young talent to become an impact for a Major League Baseball team. Do not care how many win. Okay. Yep. I'm going to have to skip past some of this. You guys want to ask Estrada everything. Maybe I should bring Estrada on for like a live stream and let you guys just super chat to ask him questions. If that's what you guys want to do, we can do that. I'll try to plan that out with him. I'm sure he'd be down to do it. I think that would be fun. We are planning on doing an interview. I forgot to mention we are planning on doing another interview with Brother Francis. If you're an older fan, you probably remember Brother Francis. He's a guy that used to dress up as a monk back in the day. I've done a couple interviews with him before. You can find him on the channel. He's an interesting guy. He's got a lot of good stories. He wants to talk baseball too. And I'll be glad to bring him on at some point. Things have been busy, obviously, lately with Matt Olson and everything. But we'll see. You know, I would definitely like to bring on Estrada and let you guys talk to him. I think that would be fun. And I don't think a lot of people do that, you know, and I think that would be fun, you know, to talk to a guy that, you know, obviously a former All-Star and that kind of thing. And he had a lot of good years with the Braves. So I think that would be fun to talk about, but we'll see. He's also a guy that's hilarious. Let me see. I'm going to have to skip past the Estrada questions just because we're going to save those, okay? All right, Richard Davis. The Braves didn't sign these hitters to not try and win the division. If these young pitchers don't get it together, they won't stay with them very long. They will sign a vet or two. Richard, I would like to know where the vets are coming from is the only thing. Mark Perez, where do you rank Snit on a list of best managers in baseball? So, you know, it's hard for me to just rank something, to tell you the truth. That's a little difficult. What I'll say is this. I think a lot of managers have different philosophies. There's a few managers that I like. Frankly, I think Buck Showalter is probably going to be a pretty good manager with the Mets. If I'm honest, I think he's a good baseball man. But I think there's a lot of good baseball guys, you know, that are managers. I like Clint Hurdle, you know, and he doesn't get a lot of attention because he's on the Pirates. But I like Clint Hurdle. I was a big fan of Ron Gardenhire, who was recently with Detroit. I interviewed Ron Gardenhire a few years ago. You know, there's guys I'm fans of. But at the same time, when it comes to Snit, I like the mindset because it is a Braves mindset. And it is completely a Braves mindset. And a lot of, you know, it doesn't work for everybody. But for the Braves, it does. And I think he fits the team. And I think, you know, you can have a good... I mean, look at what Gabe Kapler did, right? I mean, he did terrible in Philadelphia. And then he goes to, you know, the San Fran and takes him to a postseason the first year he's there. So sometimes managers just don't mesh well. So that's kind of hard, you know, to know. You know, it's kind of hard to know who's going to do what with a team. But ultimately, you know, it becomes how well does a manager mesh with a team? And I think Brian Snitker meshes very well. In terms of where I'd rank him, definitely top 10, probably top 5, maybe even top 3. But I don't know for sure. I'd have to look into it. We got a super chat that I have to highlight. It's from John Brown. Thanks for coming by Connolly's while in Greenville. Sorry I missed you. Here's a Coca-Cola on me. Keep up the great content. Thank you, John. I appreciate it. Yeah, we you know, I told you guys we went to March Madness. Here, I stole this from behind the scenes, but we went to March Madness. We were covering Auburn, and I hope you guys can see that. So we were there, and it was a lot of fun, obviously. Got to do a lot of behind the scenes, met Jim Nance, got to do a few things. Really cool, but one of the things I was looking forward most to was going by Connolly's Irish Pub and drinking a Coca-Cola with John Brown. And we went, we didn't catch him. I guess he were off that night or whatever. We go down the street, and we're at some other, I don't even remember the place, but we're at some other place, and we're eating, and our waitress happens to be John Brown's, I guess, girlfriend or wife, and she knew exactly who I was. You know, and it was hilarious. We missed John, but we met her, so that was great. But beyond that, come to find out, I met you guys a few years ago as we boarded a plane to go to Texas to watch the Braves. So appreciate the super chat, man. Glad you tuned in. Really do appreciate it. And go Braves, all that good stuff. I'll be glad to get a Coca-Cola in the morning on you. Thanks for that. And maybe at some point, you know, I'll get back up to Greenville. I do have plans to do something with the Joe Jackson Museum up there. So maybe I can get with you guys at some point. And of course, you can follow me on social media, all that good stuff, at bubblegum_Jesus. If you guys want to follow me a little bit more closely, you know, don't tell everybody, but I do try to respond to stuff on there as much as I can. I can't do it all the time, but I do try to. The comment section is obviously the best place to get a hold of me. for you guys' purposes to answer baseball questions. But for those guys trying to communicate with me about, whatever, seeing me in a game or whatever, I'm always glad to, stop in and say hello and all that good stuff. So thanks for the super chat, and thanks for watching like you always do. I really do appreciate it, John Brown. Thank you. All right. So Philip Powell says, yes, Olson shirts are available in the clubhouse store. So I really do appreciate that. Let me see. Hitman, remember when everyone hated... What? Y'all do this to me. Y'all make me laugh because I start reading and I don't read the whole thing before I do. Hitman says, remember when everyone hated Snit last year? I do, and I defended him over and over and over. I got asked that question, like, do we need to fire Snit? Do we need to fire Snit? Every live I did at least 3 times for like 2 months. And it's like, no. Like, who could have, like, this isn't his fault. Like, this doesn't have anything to do with Snit. But, it's interesting. To be honest with you, when Snit got hired, as permanent manager, I didn't know what he was going to be because he wasn't proven. But he's proven himself, I think, with the Braves. And he's one of my favorites, personally. Let me see. Jose says, I would love to see Braves on Deck host Chip Caray or one of the guys from the Braves broadcasting team one day. We got to make it happen. So, you brought him up. I'll tell you the story. When I was 16 years old, I worked for a radio station here in town. I wasn't hardly doing a thing on it. I was mainly watching the show from the booth. But anyway, I got to be around it, and that's kind of what got me started in what I'm doing now. But I sent a letter to Chip Caray. I was in high school. I didn't have any experience. And I sent a letter to about 15 or 20 guys in the field. And I'll leave it at that. Not all of them were associated with the Braves. Some of them were just out across the country. The only one I got back was from Chip Caray. The only one was from Chip. And because of that, he's always been one of my favorites because he was nice enough to respond. I've met him since then. I got a picture hanging up on the wall over there with him outside Turner Field. He signed it for me as well. Very nice guy. I don't know him personally, but it always meant the world to me that he took time to respond. And not only did he respond, he responded with, an encouraging letter, but also a long, in-depth letter. And it made a big difference and told me that this was possible, that all of this was possible. So if anybody out there knows Chip Caray, I'd love to interview him for sure. But the reason I pulled this baseball out is it's actually signed by Harry Caray. I got this last year, and it's one of my favorite pieces. That's why it's down here and not up there. I got balls up there signed by Bob Uecker, and other folks as well. If anybody has a Vin Scully they'd like to donate, let me know. But Harry is one of my favorite broadcasters and one of my favorite characters in the history of baseball. But a lot of it's to do with who Chip was and who Skip was. And what Chip did for me specifically. So yeah, if you guys can get Chip Caray interested in doing an interview, I'd love to do it. I just don't know exactly how to contact him. I've interviewed Nick Green before. I saw him at a golf tournament a few years ago. He's a very nice guy. Any of those guys are great. Paul Bird, anytime I see Paul Bird, we have a funny interaction. It feels like down by the dugout. So again, any of those guys. Kelsey Wingert was a friend of the channel for a few years till she moved on, and it is what it is, but I would love to interview any of those guys. Any of them, whether it be Chip, Joe, Ben Ingram. I got Kevin McAlpin on here a bunch. Anybody like that, yeah, I'd be glad to do an interview for sure. Thanks for that, though. Mark Perez, are you worried about the Braves farm system? Worried is a strong word. I don't think we're in a time where we're focused on the farm, right? And that's not necessarily a bad thing. I'm glad that we're focused on who we are right now, right? Like who the team is right now. Because you look at the team, it's a good team. I mean, most of the reason our farm is as limited as it is, the reason that the farm is limited as it is because all of those guys have come up, right? Austin Riley was in the farm 2 years ago. Max Fried was in the farm 3 or 4 years ago. Soroka in the farm 3 or 4 years ago. Dansby, farm. Ozzy, farm. Acuna, farm. All those guys have come up, right? And, even beyond that, Kyle Muller, Tookie Toussaint, Tucker Davidson. I mean, we're so limited because of that. And if they hadn't come up, we would, it'd still be a great farm, but we wouldn't be producing in the majors whatsoever. So it's a cycle. I think that, we got to rebuild the farm a little bit, and we'll do that. I think it's going to be hard to do because the Braves are a good team. It's going to be hard to do in the draft. It's going to be hard to do, in trades because we're not in a sellout market. That's why you see that's why tanking helps teams, and that's why I'm against the whole anti-tanking thing. Is because that's the only way a lot of these teams, can come back, or can rebuild, or can perform at a competitive level, like the A's. That's the only way they've ever found success is constant rebuild. The Rays, constant rebuild. The Cubs, the reason they were good in 2016, a rebuild. That's how teams do that, especially small market teams. I just don't understand, why any of these others, the big market teams don't like it because they can pay for anybody they want. But the way the A's, the Rays, the Braves, the Cubs, the way they've been able to do it, even the Astros, the way they've been able to do it is through rebuilds and sacrificing the good players that they have to get better on the back end. We sacrificed the Upton brothers, Brian McCann, Evan Gattis, Craig Kimbrell. I mean, we got rid of everybody, to do what we have now. And I think, hopefully that doesn't happen anytime soon, but that's the only way that I see the Braves really doing it is by trading what they have now for prospects, because they're not going to do it in the draft. Don't get me wrong. We got some good guys in the draft a few years ago. Bryce Elder, Spencer Strider. We got a lot of good guys. But it's going to be hard for the Braves to really perform at an elite level when it comes to that. In terms of the farm itself, it's going to be hard to rebuild. And, with the trade we just made for Olson, that was probably a difficult, choice for Alex Anthopoulos. But he knows that our time right now is right now. It's not 5 years from now anymore. I think we've proven that, right? So we'll see, but it is what it is. Richard Davis, who says Max Scherzer won't have a dead arm this year? He pitched like 5 innings the other day. They use him too much, like DeGrom. I'm going to leave it there, but yes, completely agree. Mark Perez, what is your most valuable baseball card, Braves or non-Braves? I'll be honest with you, I don't collect baseball cards. And I know that sounds so weird coming from me more than likely. I just don't collect them. I have a few that are signed by different folks, in a drawer somewhere. I just don't think they display well, to tell you the truth. I don't think they're, I have a ton of stuff on display right now. Like that's the stuff I like, right? I got a portrait of Hank Aaron right there that I'm looking at. I have pictures all over the wall signed by whoever. Baseballs display very well. Helmets display very well. That kind of, I love that type of thing, but I just don't collect cards. It's just hard for me to really wrap my head around them. I did when I was a kid. When I was a kid, I had like a Pete Rose card from like 1985 or something. Maybe might have been 1976 or, a year they won the World Series or something, a rookie card, something. And it was worth some money, but I sold it. I don't collect those. I collect memorabilia. I just don't collect cards, so I don't really have anything like that. But I got stuff all over the wall, 20 bats, a couple of hats signed. I collect stuff like that that's more visual than a card is. I respect the card game, just never really been a part of it very much. Let me see. Sorry, hang on a second. Lost my place again. Uh-oh. Snap. Hang on a second. I have lost my place so bad, it's not even funny. All right. Sorry, guys. I'm going to find it at some point. All right, John Maine. Just a small fact. I believe Derek Lilliquist is the last Braves pitcher to hit 2 homers in one game. Probably, but I couldn't tell. Probably. I don't remember another one. I mean, Huascar Noah might get him next year if he can hit at all, but maybe. We'll see. By the way, guys, if you're not subscribed to the channel, make sure to do that. We've picked up a few tonight, but just go ahead and do that for me. I really would appreciate it. We're growing very fast on this channel, and I hope you'll be a part of it. Let me see. Here we go. Jose, what's your favorite place/feature of Truist Park? That's hard. I love Truist Park. It's hard not to say the Hank Aaron, statue and that area, just the whole walk there. I think that's got to be it. I think that it's kind of missing some things. And what I mean by that is it's missing some statues. It's missing some retired numbers. I hope they add a 25 up there, to tell you the truth. And beyond that, I think, at some point you got to give the big three a statue. You got to give Chipper a statue, maybe even Andrew. But I think at some point it's got to add those. But I definitely think that Hall of Fame walk and the history walk right there is definitely my favorite. I think it's hard not to say that. I also like the fact that we have the hang on a second, guys. Let me get rid of that. I think it's also good that they have the big cow out in the outfield. I know that's everybody's favorite, right? Just kidding. Sorry, let me see. Yes, Rick Prada, the prospect, Michael Harris. I'm kind of losing my place because I got closed out of something. But what type of design, this is from Jose as well, what type of design would you like to see on a future Connect jersey for the Braves? I think we have a chance to get one next year. Waffle House would be cool. The Dirty South thing I've seen people make memes of is pretty funny. That would be cool. Or the Atlians, you know what I'm talking about? That would be kind of cool. I don't know. I hope it's better than whatever flower thing that the Nationals got. I think that's kind of a joke, but we'll see. We'll see how creative they get. Richard Davis, MLB ain't Little League. Don't need to hit for no catcher. Maybe run for them. That's funny. Corey, wow, that's cool. That's cool, Corey. I didn't get that part of it. Jameson, yeah, crazy game against the New York Mets where Freddie got an RBI because the ball hit the pitcher's leg. Glad I was there. That place got loud that night. Mark Perez, Tyler, did you play baseball yourself once upon a time? If so, what position? So, yeah, I played. I definitely played. I did not play in high school. I played in Little League and didn't really go any further than that. I played it was Little League. I played everywhere. So, I pitched very minimally. I didn't like pitching. I was a third baseman for a while, and then I moved into the outfield. But I could not, at that time, I just could not catch a fly ball. And I'm going to tell you why, because I have good reason. Okay, I can catch a fly ball now. But the sun where I live and where the ballpark is was so bad. It was like you could wear sunglasses, you could do all what you need to do, but it was so bad, I couldn't see the ball. So I tell you that story to tell you this one. Everybody knew that I didn't like fly balls, especially out in 100-degree weather where it's sunny outside. Everybody knew. It was a known thing. I don't know why they put me out in the outfield. I was a lot better at third baseman. I just was. So I could hit pretty good, though, for a 12-year-old. I could definitely hit. But beyond, anyway, so we're playing in the city tournament, and we're the guy that's hitting had hit a home run over my head, at the start of the game. He was a leadoff hitter. He hit a home run over my head. He's back up at the plate. I got a man on second. We're up by one, okay? Just remember all that. We're up by one, man on second. Guy at the plate hit a home run earlier in the game. He hits a ball to me, and it's the way everybody, people know me for this around town, okay? Even now, no matter what I do, this is what they remember, okay? The people I see that I haven't seen since then. This ball gets hit, and it's up there for forever. It feels like the whole stadium got quiet, right? That whole, thing. So I'm nervous, and I lose the ball. It's gone. I can't see it. And I find the fence behind me. I know it's not going to be a homer, so it's at least going to land in front of me. Anyway, I don't see it till it's about 10 feet above me. And I lean in like that. I lean towards it, and it hits me in the palm, and I fall. I roll. Everybody thinks I dove for it. I fell. So anyway, I'm laying on the ground. Please, Jesus, let this ball be in my glove. Because otherwise, the guy on second's already scored, right? And the guy running the bases is at least around in second by this point. So they would have won the game. Without a doubt, they would have won the game. So anyway, I pull out of my glove, and I have it, and there's a picture in the paper. I don't have it, but there's a picture in the paper that got made, and it's, us hugging and all, and I'm sitting there screaming and yelling because it was like the first ever, game winning anything in terms of the field I ever did. And it won the tournament, or it won the game and moved us on in the tournament. So it was just that's the one story I'll give you. There's a video on my Instagram with my dad yelling at me when I was like 12 on video. That's pretty funny. But yeah, I love the game. I love playing it. I moved on, actually. After that, I moved on to wrestling, and I was actually a much better wrestler than I ever was baseball player. to tell you the truth. But I love the game. I love the history of the game. I love talking about the game. I'm just not very good at it. But yeah, I still play softball and stuff. But yeah, once upon a time I did. But I was a much better third baseman than I was an outfielder. Jameson. Yeah, the Braves came. I was at Turner Field in '99, the Montreal Expos, and we won the game. That's cool. I'm not going to be on here too much longer, guys, so make sure you get your stuff in. But yeah, I will be here as long as I can be. I'm probably going to answer whatever questions are there, and then I'm just going to head out. Let me see. Jameson says, okay, try my last again. The first game I went to Truist Park, I looked into the game. Clinched the division, the victory of the Giants in 2019. That's cool. Corey Carter, Snit isn't a good game manager, but he is a good leader, and he pulled all the right strings in the playoffs. Yes, and I can say more about that than I can for Dave Roberts. Richard Davis, Morton is a perfect example of how pitchers develop late. He didn't throw 90 when he first come up, for sure. I think that's about it. All right. All right, cool. Hitman, I went to my first ever baseball game. It was the day we won the NL East, so it was fun. Great. Stephen McCulloch, someone just posted to the Brave sub about trying to get Trey over Dan's next year. Any thoughts? Ignore this if you've already answered it if I'm late. Haven't talked about it today, Stephen, so you're good. I'm actually caught up, believe it or not. Can't believe it. So the way I view it is if it had been this year, I might feel differently, but it's not. I don't know where Trey's going to... Where is Trey now? He's signed somewhere, didn't he? You're talking about Trevor Story, right? Let me see. I really think Dansby's the guy. I just don't think that the shortstop free agency is going to be there next year. And to be honest with you, like, why pay somebody significantly more to do a little more than what Dansby's already? Like, that's how I view it, to tell you the truth. But yeah, I mean, that's where I'm at with it. So, guys, I think we're going to wrap it up. I think that the comment section's kind of wrapping up, and I think I am too, to tell you the truth. I got some work to do prior to going to work. I got to do some schoolwork and stuff. But appreciate you guys tuning in for the night. I'm going to wrap it up with that. You guys have been awesome. Thanks for the super chats. Thanks for the subscribers. Thanks for all that. You guys are always killing it with that. I really do appreciate it. So with that, guys, we're going to wrap it up. So thank you to the guys who just commented. Hope I handled it. John Main, thank you for that. Thank you. I see that now. If you aren't subscribed, you should be. Tyler Redmond, spell my name right, is a true Braves fan and does a great job with his content. Hit like and subscribe. Let's all support a fellow Braves fan. Listen to him. Do that. And I really do appreciate it. And thank you guys. Thank you, Jose. Thank you all for tuning in. And with that, guys, we're going to wrap it up. And I'll see you guys later. So see you later.